Santa's on the mats with a gleam in his eye. No need for coal, he's got a surprise. Shit, you don't get gifts when you got no respect. Now Santa's here giving oil checks.
Because I've had some crazy shit happen because of McDojo Life. And man, I got to see some incredible stuff. Like I've had some scary shit happen. So I'm really thinking about doing like a memoir style of things that have happened with McDojo Life. I have like 3 Joe Rogan stories that are fucking amazing. Like, and he's not even in them. It's just because of him.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
Well, brother, I appreciate you for taking the time to come on to the Relentless Project, man. It's interesting how everything goes full circle. I have followed you for years, the page, McDojo Life, and just what you do is very interesting. And then I had seen you at CJI. I was at CJI, and a lot of people were talking to you. So I was like, I don't know how it feels when people come up to me. I kind of get overwhelmed. So I was like, I don't want to be that guy.
No,
and then
CJI was dope, man. I really had a good time, and I was pretty high during CJI because it was like,
well, you have to be.
Oh man, it was so fun, and
you can't be at Craig's event and not be, happy.
It was great. Like somebody from Jocko Fuel, like he pawned off like 2 cases of Jocko Fuel because he didn't want to carry it anymore, and he made it try to sound like it was a gift. It was so goddamn funny. So he's got like 2 massive cases, I mean big boxes of this Jocko Fuel packs, and I'm like, all right. He's like, here, man, it's a gift from us. Then he just like pawned these. I'm like, I'm in the middle of this fucking event. Like, what the hell am I going to do with this? So I was like, all right, fuck it. So me and my friend Matt from Epic Roll, we've known each other for a really long time, and we've gotten close over the years. And we were sitting together at CJI, and I was like, I want to get rid of this shit. I don't want it anymore. So like in the middle of the auditorium, I just like, who wants free Jocko Fuel? And like everybody's freaking out. So we're just whipping that shit up into the stand.
It became a giveaway for you.
2 cases of the shit. It was great. You're welcome, Jocko.
Well, carry all that shit around wouldn't even be fun.
Yeah, what am I going to do with this? Like, I don't work for you.
Yeah,
sponsor me. How about that? I'll carry this shit around all day.
Well, it's funny. It's funny again, that full circle effect. We'll talk about how Jocko plays a role in everything. So I'm at that event, and then now I'm with Kate and Eric with Seminar Stack, kind of helping them out do stuff. And they're like, hey, can you get our instructors on? Let's talk. I'm like, absolutely. And then who's one of their instructors? Mr. Rob Ingram himself, McDojo Life. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll reach out.
Yeah. I don't remember how we got in contact with each other, honestly. I remember seeing something about Seminar Stack or whatever, and we got talking, and I gave them like almost like a free consultation on how to grow their social media and stuff. And then after like, I think we did like an hour, and I was just like, I just hope it helps you or whatever. And then during the conversation, I was like, if you guys just happen to know of anybody, I'm kind of back to teaching seminars again because all my injuries are better. So I was like, I'd like to teach again. And they're like, well, we'd like to have you. We worked it out. And so now I'm teaching a seminar at Seminar Stack August 2nd, I do believe, in PA. And then I'll be teaching a seminar on social media and how to use that to grow your brands, to help your martial arts studios, better retention, better lead generation, conversion, stuff like that. I think a lot of people who follow probably the Instagram don't necessarily follow like literally everything else I do because everything is very segmented for a reason. So my YouTube is like long form expose pieces, but I also make the majority of my money on McDojo Life from doing business consulting for martial arts schools. And so throughout the years, you always have people go, well, how do these frauds have so many instructors or so many students? It's like, I can't get 10 people to show up to my mat.
Yeah.
These frauds have like 30 in their seminar. And I was like, well, I can teach you. And so from there, it just kind of became a subsidiary thing that I do on McDojo Life.
Well, it goes to show you, because I had no idea you did that until I kind of read up on you. And it makes sense that you've made it a mission to kind of like expose the dangers and the bad things about, the martial arts schools and academies. And then you can turn that into like, hey, how can we make this good? How can we make this better? So you kind of do. It's like a two-legged attack
Well, it's a
on martial arts.
juxtaposition of the issue. When I first started, no one had really truly defined what a McDojo was. It was a word that was tossed around, and you can even look it up on Google, like what is a McDojo, and you'll see like videos like 100 ways to know your school's a McDojo. Like 100, really? Like we can narrow this down a little better, I think. And there were places like Bullshido forums, which are still around, I do believe, but they were kind of like these opinionated forums where people were just dogging on things they didn't like, not necessarily because they didn't have value. And so the first thing I had to do with McDojo Life was define it. But the next thing you have to do is after you define it, you have to create a plan on how to fix it. So like in order to solve a problem, you have to know what the problem is. And then in order to fix it, you have to have a game plan to fix it. And so just tearing down people who were bad or cults or whatever really doesn't do much in the long run, because you need to build up the good studios and show the very drastic differences between a good studio and a bad studio. And it helps. It really does make a difference.
And that's interesting because online we see a lot of attacking and tearing down, and that's it, you know? And it's like, I feel, especially in the martial arts community, whether you like the fighter, you don't like the fighter, you like the school, you don't like the school, there's always all these opinions, you know, and you found a way to kind of get that and then run with it and kind of show the positive aspect, the positive, or the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, for martial arts in schools. So like, for those who don't know, this is Rob, founder of McDojo Life, vice president of Academy Safe, an extensive martial arts history and practitioner, 3rd degree black belt in karate, 3rd degree black belt in Lissajous-Do.
Nice try. It's a tough one. It's a French physicist, Jules Antoine Lissajous, and Lissajous. Yeah, and it's based off of like sound waves, and they found that if you look at the way sound waves move, your body actually moves very similarly. So if you look at like a Lissajous patterns, there's actually a machine that would do Lissajous patterns.
It's like oscillating circles, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of looking it up.
Yeah.
So it's actually a mathematical. Well, it's used in mathematical terminology. Mm-hmm. The Lissajous, the oscillating circles, and the array of functions that come with that, and curves, and it's interesting that was applied into the martial arts world.
Yeah, and like this is the symbol right here. This is the symbol for Lissajous. It's like the Vitruvian Man, which everybody has seen that before.
We have seen that, yeah.
But that's how your body moves. Your body moves in like these circular motions. And so it kind of helps you understand how to use any weapon. And so for that particular system, you typically learn nunchucks first because it's a very awkward, difficult weapon to learn how to use without beating yourself up. And so once you like use that, everything else becomes very easy because almost every other weapon is like straight. But it helped me learn how to learn bullwhips. I learned how to do knife, stick, nunchuck stuff. But it's a fun system. I love teaching it.
Even with shooting, this just dawned on me. When you go from irons to red dot, what do they tell you when you're looking at your target? The dot seems to do this. They say it'll never be fixed. It kind of does this by you holding it. You're getting that oscillating circle, and you have to break your shot when it's on your target. Yeah, so it's like very interesting.
Same thing
that
with
you mentioned
breathing and all that. Yeah, it was such a fun system to learn, and it's such a fun system to teach. And it's really interesting, like we were talking about McDojos, right? Which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot during the show. Kind of my thing. But it's funny how people will view certain martial arts, like especially weapons-based systems, like Filipino martial arts, Kali, Eskrima, those types of arts, arnis. And then you'll see these weapons-based systems, and then they'll see the drills, just the drills. And a lot of the weapons-based systems have a ton of drills. And they'll view that as a technique when it's not a technique. It's a drill. It's kind of like if you see somebody just doing floor drills in Jiu Jitsu, like bridging, hip escape, kind of, like moving from place to place, standing base, break fall. So somebody just doing that all together with no explanation, and you've never done Jiu Jitsu before, you'd be like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's weird. Like, shrinking up and down the floor would look very weird. But if you understood the principle, why are you doing this, and why is that body mechanic so important, which is super important in jiu-jitsu, then you kind of get it. Filipino martial arts weapons, or any weapon style, are very similar. There are tons of drills, and then so people will see me doing nunchucks, they'll be like, that would never work on the street. Of course not, dumbass. Like, I would never, first of all, carry nunchucks in the street because that'd be weird. No
You don't
one's
have 'em in
going to
your
sit
back
by that
pocket.
guy on the bus. Like, that's a weird dude, right? And then second of all, like, I would just take the stick and hit you with it. Like, it doesn't take a genius to learn how to do that. Like, everything else is dexterity, body mechanics, understanding flow, understanding how to go from one strike to the next. Like, none of that is doing. Like, when I'm flipping it around my finger, of course I'm not going to do that on you. Like, it's just how.
That being said, if you approach someone to fight and they're flipping nunchucks on their finger, are you going to fight them?
No, that's
Probably
a crazy
not.
person. That's a crazy person.
Probably not.
Yeah. Michelangelo was on crack, son. Like, oh, look what I'm doing. Like, he's high. Like, clearly there's something wrong with him. Like, when.
And like, all that being said, you also train jiu-jitsu. Obviously, you're speaking jiu-jitsu. You're purple belt in jiu-jitsu. You had some experience as an amateur boxer.
Yeah, 6-0 amateur boxer, 4-2 amateur kickboxer, and that's not counting any of the kickboxing or sport karate tournaments that I did, because who would keep track of that? But like, it'd be kind of weird if you kept track of all your jiu-jitsu tournaments. If you're a jiu-jitsu, like, I'm 175-17, like,
Yeah,
you don't do that. You just keep track of the medals. It's kind of the same thing with like kickboxing and sport karate. So I was on an international team for 2 years. So, not exaggerating, every weekend we had a tournament for 2 years, and that got old. And I had to maintain weight for 2 years, and that's very tough.
2-year camp. That's wild.
Dude, it sucked. It sucked ass. The worst part wasn't even the training, because I was teaching full time at the time. So I was already in the gym all the time anyway. It was just making sure that I put in my reps to get ready for tournaments. But when you're in tournaments all the time, I mean, you're getting your reps in at the tournaments. So I would see like these great places. We went to Canada and Mexico and Ireland, and I got to see the inside of their hotel rooms, and that was it. Like, we trained, we fought, we left, we did maybe a training camp at the end of the weekend, and then we went back home, and we did a local, a state, a national, international every weekend.
So it's safe to say you've walked the walk then.
Well, I mean, that's how I got so pretty. You know. My nose is over here. Like, my nose used to be straight. I miss that. Breathing was.
It's so funny because online you see the stuff you do. What people don't realize is, like, you can catch a lot of heat for the stuff you say. And the sad part is, the shit I've seen you. I've never, knock on wood till date, I have not seen you post something where I went, he's wrong on this one. Like, you know what I mean? Like. I'm sure it does, but from my experience, I'm like, yo, he's fucking like, what is this that I'm seeing on this video? And it's just crazy that you catch flack for stuff like that.
Yeah, I call them keepers. So these are cease and desist letters I keep in my drawer.
Oh my goodness!
One of them was a straight up lawsuit that I just won. It was a frivolous lawsuit. A guy hired a registered sex offender, knew he was a registered sex offender, allowed him to teach children. Then lied about it, still lies about it today. And then I put a story out about it. So after I put the story out, originally the story was supposed to be about the sex offender, which is kind of how some of the expose pieces I do work. I'll go after this person, and next thing you know, I'm like, whoa, this guy is a problem, but he's not nearly as bad as this problem, which no one's paying attention to. So I started doing a story about Gary Snap Ferguson. And I'm going to say his name because fuck you, you're a sex offender piece of garbage. I hope people know your name. So Gary Snap Ferguson. He decided that he was going.
Was it Snap Ferguson?
Snap
Gary
Ferguson. Gary
okay, got
Snap
it.
Ferguson. Just so that we're clear on the pronunciations.
Yeah, I don't want to mispronounce a name.
I'm terrible with names. So anyway, Gary Snap Ferguson was a registered sex offender who got hired out of prison by a guy named Brian Antak. Brian Antak runs Brian Antak's Kempo Karate in Bakersfield, California. So just in case you're in Bakersfield, California, a guy who hired a registered sex offender's name is Brian Antak of Brian Antak's Kempo Karate in Bakersfield, California. So anyway, I wind up doing a story about that, and I had written him a message publicly because I had written him a couple direct messages that he didn't answer. So finally, I was like, I'm just going to ask him publicly. I was like, I have a few questions about Gary Snap Ferguson. Would you mind answering them? So clearly I'm not attacking him. I'm just asking, I want to ask questions about this actual sex offender. And then his response to me directly was, sure, I'm happy to answer you. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Sure, I'm happy to answer you. You can talk to me and my lawyer. And I'm like, sure, I'll talk to him too. It's not illegal for me to ask you questions. So like, but he just kept answering all the questions in the public forum. So I was like, this is great. This is like, now everything's out there in the open so people public can see it. So after I put out a story about him, clearly, like in the story, I don't say this, but he clearly knows that this guy's a registered sex offender. So after I put out that story, he put out a counter claim, like a counter YouTube video that was just all nonsensical. Like he's like, this guy's fake news. None of this is true. I was like, I provided receipts. I was like, this is a photo of you and him in a kid's class teaching. Like, how could that be wrong?
It's almost like doubling down.
Yeah, it's all stupid.
It blows my mind, because if I ran a business, which I run a few businesses, and something gets past me, right? Like I don't know how, but a sex offender. And someone tell, hey bro, do you know about, my response is gonna be like, oh shit, I had no, yeah, let's fucking talk about this, because it obviously, I missed it. Like, let's talk about this. Let's find a way to solve this issue so it doesn't get worse.
Of course.
You know?
That's what a good person would do. But like, this guy, I don't even think he ever officially put out a statement to his parents. Like, I don't think that he did this for his clients. And the lie that he kept saying was, well, he kept actually kicking the can down the road on the lie. The lie started off with, I didn't know. Then it was like, well, he never taught a kids class. He only taught adults. And then when I showed pictures of him teaching kids classes, he was like, oh, that's in our old studio, not our new studio. So then I showed photos of him in the new studio. Oh, well, that was, he got kicked out the first time he came in after we found out. I'm like, okay, well, when exactly was that? And he was like, this time and date. Finally, after we actually went through the legal system, he had to write down a time and date for the paperwork. So then I put out the story again, just out of sheer curiosity. I was like, let me just put it out on Instagram this time, not just YouTube. I put it out on Instagram, and like 4 parents contact me like, oh my God, like this guy was still teaching. Timestamp, like location stamped, like photos of him teaching a year after this guy said he had kicked him out of the facility on legal documentation. I'm like, suck a dick. You clearly knew this dude was like terrible. And this is verifiable after you 100% knew. And of course, having like contact with instructors there who gave me full dissertations. I could see their direct messages of the conversations they had where he admits 100% to knowing. It's like, dude, if we go to court, I'm going to bury you. So finally, after like 2 years of back and forth and a lot of money to lawyers, he's now dismissed the case. So it's ridiculous.
It just blows my mind, especially with how social media plays a huge role in not only life, right? Everyone and their mom is on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Like my mom has no business being on social media, and she'll tell me about things I've never even heard. Have you heard about this? I'm like, how do you know about that? Like, she'll tell me things about hey, did you hear what's going on in Pittsburgh? I'm like, no, I have no clue. How did you find it? Oh, social media. Get off social media. Like, get off social media. But that being said, it's such a critical role in our businesses, our social lives. You don't get to lie anymore, because as soon as you put something on the internet, not saying you had a reason to lie, but I get it. And here's another, I'll play devil's advocate. Even if you approach it in the sense like, hey, look, I interviewed this dude extensively. These are the rehabs he's gone through. These are the therapists he's worked through. I looked this up, not justifying this, because there's certain things in life that, hey, if you do that, you have to own that for the rest of your life. That follows you. I feel like these are one of those things. But people will talk about rehab, right? Like, he's changed. Even if you approach it like that, have that intentional conversation of, hey, I understand how this appears. These are my justifications for doing this. I'll speak with the parents. I should have made this clear. I should have made this known. That was never had. I was never had.
What's even stranger is, like, I think that, there are diehards who actually follow what I do. They really do. Like, they follow the Instagram, they follow the YouTube. They really look at the work that I do. And it's not just a surface level. Because on surface level, like, I get this shit all the time from casual people who just kind of watch it because they think it's funny. They'll watch the Instagram and think that it's just kind of a meme page.
Initially, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah. And then once you start scratching the surface, you realize, like, the stuff that I put on Instagram is just a real thin layer of what I've been doing. If you go to YouTube, you start to realize, like, stories like the Brian Antak thing, where I'm trying to inform people about sex offenders in our industry. I think I've done hundreds of stories on sex offenders in this industry, gotten martial arts studios closed, gotten instructors removed from programs, gotten out like really bad people who were students removed from programs, made sure that the light was shined on bad business practices. Like, for instance, like Endo Athletics. Endo Athletics is run by a guy named DJ Mackey. And he has like 3 different companies that every time his company gets caught basically just robbing people, he takes their money. He does not provide skis, rash guards, anything. I was able to get thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars back for victims who got ripped off by him, who didn't see their money for like 8 years. And then I started tracking down their money and talking to DJ Mackey directly. And then he starts giving some of their money back. Now, in the long run, he's still ripping people off. But now at least there's a story out there, and some people did get their money back because trying to work. I did a story called Tale of Two Frauds. And it was about two frauds who I got stories about who lied almost about the same thing. And so I'm doing the stories about the same people, but one guy openly admitted publicly his wrongdoing. And he was a man about it. He was like, you know what? I was going through something. I lied. I want to publicly apologize. I was not correct in this situation. He lied about his belt rank. He said he was a black belt and he wasn't. And he was ripping people off really because they believed that he was this. So of course they pay him money. But he cleaned his act up after I talked to him, which is great. That's like a perk of doing this job. My goal isn't to tear these people down. I just want to make sure that the truth is out there for the public. Well, the other guy, it took forever. I was like, dude, I have your resume. Your resume like even has like people's names in the resume as contacts. So I called them. And they're like, yeah, that guy's never worked here. And I'm like, why would he put this on his resume? So like finally he does like a full on confessional and he tells the public like, look, I lied about my military service, which by the way is really fucking illegal if you're trying to take people's money for that.
Yeah,
like,
if you're monetizing it.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
like, dude, that's Stolen Valor Act. That's a real thing. Like you can go to federal jail for that. Like you got to leave that alone. So anyway, but the goal isn't to tear these people down. It never has been. The goal is to kind of make the public more informed. And for the people who actually look past the surface layer of Instagram, and they just go to the YouTube for once and just check out any of the breakdown stories that I do. These are real cults. These are real problems. These are real pedophiles. These are real sex offenders. These are real bad people. And in order for me to kind of help the industry know what's going on, I have to do these long story expose pieces. I'm not going to put that on Instagram. Instagram's policies and procedures are very strict, very strict. So even just sometimes saying the word pedophile can get a post removed, can get your stuff restricted. So people are like, why don't you just post it here? It's because if I did that, I run the risk of losing that entire page. Like I'm almost at like 700,000 subscribers. Why would I want to lose that advertisement space when all the stuff is on YouTube? If you really gave a shit about these people, really cared about the sex offenders. And the reason I bring that up was a fleeting thought that I probably should have said before I started that. I get a lot of people who go, man, I want to know where this pedophile is. No, you don't. Like if you actually cared, you just go to the YouTube and it has all their information. Or they go, man, I want to go dojo storm these people. I've been doing McDojo Life now for 13 years. You know how many people have actually followed through with all of the information that I've given? Locations, dates, like where they're going to be, seminar information, who they are, what their school's name is, everything you need to know to dojo storm them. You know how many people have actually followed through on that in 13 years and 1.5 million people subscribed? Zero. Not one person has ever gone to dojo storm these people, because the truth is that it sounds better to say it online than it is to actually do it. The legalities behind an actual dojo storm will put you in jail. Like you can't just roll up on somebody and beat them up. And that doesn't solve the problem, which is why I don't do it. Like why? Like I beat this person up and then what? I have to deal with assault battery charges? Like I have to deal with
get legal involved.
Like they don't even have to let me in the building. I could fly all the way to Australia, get to the door, and they'd be like, yeah, you can't come in. Like, why not? Well, I'm not going to let you in. It's my place of business. You're trespassing. You can leave or I'll call the police. Or if you get in there and you film and you don't tell them that you filmed inside their place of business, now you can get in trouble for that. Like, you have to have them sign paperwork. It's their place of business. So, like, and then if you tell people you're going there specifically to beat them up, right? Dojo storm. Now you've committed a premeditated crime. Like how about just
people don't think about this though.
Like people just think like just beat them up. Like, yeah, I promise you the cult followers aren't going to stop. Like, think about Waco, Texas. He got shot by the FBI. He's sitting there like, oh, that sucks. He's dying. And they were like, nah, I think we'll stay. Like, what? There's a shooting.
And that was going to be a question of mine. Like, in your experience doing this for a long time, why do you think that is, that people can gain this following when they're teaching things that are not only harmful and incorrect, but just like I seen the guy who like does the little arm circle and then someone goes flying. Like as a person sitting there, YouTube is free, social media is free. You watch Muay Thai, karate, taekwondo, Jiu Jitsu, wrestling, MMA. You watch all these arts, and then you go to this school. How is it that they can gain such a huge following and take people's money to teach this stuff, and people stand by it? Like, how? Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to sit here and say that every case is exactly the same, because most cases are not.
It's
Right?
generally because
It's
I'm asking for me because
Yeah,
I'm
for sure. But like to give you a basic idea, even inside martial arts that are considered legitimate, there are still cult-like activities that people will try to justify. Why do we do that? Like, have you ever heard of flagellation?
no sounds like something I should do on the weekend.
Well, if you're into that sort of thing, sometimes you got to pay double. But so flagellation is something that religions and cults have been doing forever, right? So if you type in cult flagellation, sometimes there's self-flagellation where you're basically just whipping yourself, right? And
Oh,
sometimes
okay.
there's like a group flagellation where you have people whipping you. Well, if you look in the history of flagellation, it's been going on for thousands of years, right? Something that was either a punishment, something that was either penance, something that they're trying to do to cleanse their soul, whatever the case may be, right? So flagellation's not anything new. But then you look at jujitsu, and they don't call it flagellation. I'm not saying all jujitsu schools do this, because most schools do not do this, but it's called the gauntlet.
The
And people will
gauntlet.
line up and they'll basically take off their belts and they'll make a hallway of bodies. And the person who just got promoted is supposed to walk through that hallway of bodies while getting whipped. And for some reason, they call this a rite of passage. Now, every other place that you see this is not ever considered a rite of passage in almost any cult group. It's almost a punishment or it's a cleansing of the soul. So when people do this in jujitsu, trying to justify it, it's always one or two things. It's either, well, this is a rite of passage, or they don't really have a reason to justify it. So, like, why do you do it? Well, he earned it, so we're doing this. Is like, why don't you just shake the man's hand? Like, well, because why? There is no real true reason other than someone before you already did this. And so that way you don't look stupid or feel dumb. You perpetuate it because you feel more bravado, or you feel more manly, or you feel more masculine, or a part of the group. Really, what's happening is you were taken advantage of in a cult like behavior and you just go along with it. That's how cults operate. And people who usually say, oh, I would never fall victim of a cult, are the easiest to actually target for a cult. Because when you know that you can be taken advantage of, your walls are up and you pay attention and you watch and you observe, you're on your toes. It's kind of like somebody who's already burned their hand on a hot stove. You're a little more cautious around that hot stove. If you're carefree and willy-nilly on the grill, you might get caught on the knuckle every once in a while. But after you do that a few times, you've been burned, you learn, and you start to observe and pay attention better. With cults, it's the same thing. And people out there listening right now, I guarantee you, who have done this are like, I'm not involved in a cult. Okay. Then just simply say the word no. That's it. I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. They will not give a shit. They won't care because you don't need to do that. The real question you should ask yourself with these cult-like behaviors are twofold, especially with martial arts. Does it make me better at the martial art I'm doing? So if I do this flagellation and I'm walking through this and they whip me, did that make me better at jiu-jitsu? The answer is no. It did not make you better at jiu-jitsu. Does it make me worse at jiu-jitsu if I don't do it? No, has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu at all. And the guy who started it was one of the original Dirty Dozen. And for anybody out there who doesn't know who the Dirty Dozen are, they're the first 12 Americans to get their black belt, right? And so, in jiu-jitsu. So one of the Dirty Dozen did it, and he himself now said it was a mistake. He himself calls it hazing. And yet it's still perpetuated by people. I even saw a martial arts studio literally paddling their people. Paddles, like old school wooden paddles, paddling people when they got their promotions. You don't think that's weird? Like, you don't think that's a little odd? Like, that's some crazy shit to do, but they justify it. To them, it's okay because someone told them it was.
I do know about the gauntlet, and I haven't been a part of schools that have done that, but you always see it online. Like, oh, he just got his blue belt, and he walks through, and everyone's whipping him, everyone's smiling, and it's almost like some people would call like a humiliation ritual, you know, like, but we call it the gauntlet, and it is justified most times when you see it. Oh, well, all the hard work was me showing up to the gym multiple times a week, getting my ass beat and training. And like, that's the hard work. We're simulating the hard work being me walking through and allowing these people to essentially whip me to get my blue belt. or to get my purple belt, whatever belt you're
the
getting.
rite of passage was the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, the
that was the rite
experience.
of passage.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, like you said, the paddles. So it starts with this, and then it's like, oh, what else can we? And then it continues to escalate until you're so far in. You're like, why am I doing
It
this?
gets even worse. Like I saw the other day a video that went viral of a UFC fighter, I do believe off the top of my head. Forgive me if I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to remember the video, but it was a female and she had gotten promoted. She got promoted through fight sports. So she's getting whipped, right? People have a very short memory and they forget what happened with fight sports and the rape and the $50,000 severance to the rapist, and then him escaping to Brazil. That story got all the way to the New York Times. That was a huge story. And yet everybody's paying attention and trying to justify this gauntlet. Like, it's a slippery slope, man. And I'm not saying everybody who does this is a bad person. I truly believe that everybody who does this is mentally being manipulated. But they're not going to ever believe that. It's so much easier to convince people. It's so much easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled. Luckily through this job, half the battle of being good at this job is studying. And like, I study a lot. I study the cult. I study the leader. I try to study other cult leaders, and I get a chance to be direct with the James Randi Foundation. And the James Randi Foundation, for anyone who doesn't know, was founded by a man named James Randi, who spent the majority of his life debunking frauds and cults and con artists and stuff like that. Very similar to what I do, but a lot more towards like people who believe they had spiritual or supernatural abilities. No one was ever able to prove that they had these abilities ever in his life. And he walked around with a check in his pocket, and he was going to sign that bad boy to anybody who proved that they could do these things, and they never could. But their James Randi Foundation doesn't just deal with that. They deal with all kinds of levels of fraud. And these are professional mentalists and magicians who make a living at fooling people. So who better to study and understand? So after you like talk to people like Banachek, for instance, who his entire show is fooling his crowd through mentalism. He can tell you what you're thinking. He can tell you what you want to do. He can tell you what card to pick. He can manipulate you to do things you didn't even know you would do. And you think it's your idea. And if anybody thinks that can't happen to them, think about what it's like to get a black belt in any martial art. What makes you that good is you've convinced the other person, your opponent, that to make a decision that they think is their idea, but you knew they would do, and you set them up to do it. Like that's how you become good at martial arts, right? If I'm moving around and I want the guy to throw a jab, I might leave that front hand a little lower just so I can bait the jab. He thinks it's his idea. It's not his idea. It was my idea. I implanted that thought. He throws that jab. Now I counter the jab because I already knew it was coming. And he might throw that jab 1,000,000 times because he doesn't know it's not his idea. It's the same thing. I need his back. So how do I set him up to take his back? Well, I'll do this to get this reaction. And then when I get this reaction, I'll take his back. But that person thinks it's their idea. That's how this works. And so even with like online, you were talking about earlier, how do people fall for this? We all fall for this all the time. No one is safe from these things.
Yeah, every time you're competing, or let's say fighting. I just went to the local boxing show. That's exactly what you're doing. You're like, hey, I'm going to set up my left hook. How do you set up your left hook? You have to leave something open so then you can cut the ring, but you're trying to make this opponent move in a certain way so that you're in position, essentially putting yourself in position. Yeah, it's like it is, or all these influence books. You know how to influence your environment, how to influence your work, how to influence. We're talking about manipulating people, essentially.
Yeah, it's all it is, and it's it happens so often that people don't realize it. So like I actually see it a lot more. I see it a lot in comment sections, which is wild. So I get a lot of my content from comment sections. So like you'll throw something out there and then you'll start to see people's ideologies, thought processes, and what they think. And so what people, it's actually kind of funny, but what people don't understand is I'm getting paid to do this job. So like when I put out a post and I interact with you and you're interacting back, you might think I'm mad at you. I don't give a fuck about you. I want you to interact with me so that way it boosts the algorithm so I can continue to get more views and comments. I don't care that we're interacting. In all honesty, most of the time, if I'm like back and forth, that means I have a little free time. So I'm just fucking around. Like, I'm just like, all right, well, I need a little more money. Let's talk to this person and just poke them with a stick. But after you get certain responses, you start to realize, like, this person actually might have a problem. So, like, if I post, for instance, a video of a pedophile, and you get somebody trying to justify that behavior, but then you start looking into their history and you're like, oh, well, you're a private profile, but your only thing that's shown is a link to your martial arts studio. Like, don't you think that that's a poor representation of that business? So then you're representing, the only thing you're representing publicly is this business. And they don't think past how that could affect the business. And so it's like, well, you're justifying pedophilia. Or I'll give you a perfect example. I showed a video the other day of an autistic child who was in a capoeira class in Brazil. Kid's trying a technique and he gets frustrated and he winds up kicking a yoga ball, right? It's just a child. Maybe he's 8. So the instructor walks over and is talking to him. Well, while he's talking to the kid again, the kid gets mad and kicks the yoga ball once again. So the instructor, in a fit of rage, sweeps the kid off his feet, and the kid hits the back of his head. Now, I've done 4 videos last year alone of martial arts instructors who did almost identical what he did. But when those kids landed on their heads and necks, their necks snapped and they died. So this is a serious issue that a grown man would sweep a child so hard that he lands on his head and his neck and could potentially kill him. And the comments in the comment sections were absolutely insane, trying to justify a grown man harming a child out of a fit of rage. Oh, well, that kid will learn now. Learn what? Clearly the adult didn't learn shit from this because he's assaulting children. Like,
it don't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense. But a lot of these people were school owners, coaches, instructors, or representing gyms. And it's like, look, you're representing a gym and you're saying this behavior is okay. So my job is to make sure that the public is aware if that is okay at that school. The public has the right to know that this coach is going to assault a child, or at least thinks that's justifiable behavior. And it's fucking not. And what's
in a fit of rage being the key component of this.
As an adult,
it wasn't an intention to teach. Yeah, it wasn't an intention to teach or an intention, because I've seen one of the coaches, I can't remember his name, and I feel like that's real disrespectful. He runs an academy with a lot of like focusing on kids, and these kids get angry and upset, and they're like inner city youth, and he'll sit there and talk with them like, hey, like it's okay to cry it out, let it out, but you have to understand that this thing that you're crying about, you still have to do it. You have to do it. And he's teaching them like perseverance and relentlessness, quote, little plug. But he's teaching them how to manage their emotions and go through with everything. And then, so you see this kind of coach example and then that coach example, and they're trying to justify saying, oh, he's teaching them. They're learning now. One, he's actually sitting there and trying to dissect something and give it to them in a way they can process. The other one, he's just sweeping them because he's angry.
Yeah, it's just a fit of rage. It doesn't really teach anything. And something that I discuss quite a bit, especially like when I'm on live or I'm having conversation, open dialogue with people who follow, is we give instructors, black belt instructors, school owners, virtues that they might not have earned, like honor, integrity, respect, discipline, self-control. They might not have any of these things. Like, this is just a person. It's odd how much we put on a pedestal the ability to fight another human being. It's a very strange thing. Like, violence, in my opinion, is very similar to swimming. It's just as important. It's just as useless. So, like, right now, do I need to know how to swim? No. Like, I don't need to know how to swim. That would be dumb. If I tried to swim around my house with no water in my house, I would look like an idiot, right? Because that's not the proper technique. Situation dictates technique. And this situation right now says there's a floor and I should probably walk, right? But I can't swim. 99% of my life is not around water. So do I need to know how to swim? No. But if someone takes my ass and dumps me out in the ocean, I damn sure better know how to swim or I'm going to die. So that one little percentage chance that might happen, it's a skill I need to know, or I could die. Violence is similar. Do I walk around needing to know how to be violent? No. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to need that. At the majority of your life, you won't need that. But when someone takes you and puts you in the deep end of a fight, you better know how to swim. You better know how to fight. Because if you don't, that might be your last. And so it's just as useless and just as useful in the time you need it. But most of the time, you don't need it. So it's our bravado,
That's
it's our
good.
ego, it's the supplemental things that we get from it. And you do learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself when there's a 275-pound neon belly on your sternum, and you're like, I think I can still breathe. It hurts so badly. It's like, you'll live. Just calm, relax. And it teaches you how to work through these horrific situations in a calm fashion, because you're putting yourself in that ringer on purpose. And it's a controlled environment. So that way, when you're in an uncontrolled environment, you kind of have a little bit of a better handle on how to deal with this pressure and stress. But I just find it very fascinating how high on a pedestal we put violence. Go to any prison in the world, and you'll find a bunch of people who are very efficient at violence. Do we look up to them? Do we go, you know what, head of R&D, the vice president, CFO, wait a minute, the janitor came in, he could beat us all up. Let's hear what he has to say. Never happen. Would never happen. Why? Because that's such a low rung in the grand scheme of life. It's only important when we need it, and then you better have it,
Yeah, and you say, yeah, the black belt's like a perceive. We add we associate a bunch of qualities and morality and characteristics with a black belt.
Mm-hmm.
Because we think, oh, I know what it takes. I know what it's taking me to get a blue belt or a purple belt. Like, to get a black belt, you have to do all this, but that may not necessarily be true. And we do put in violence as like the end all be all. We hear the quotes, be the warrior in the garden, not the gardener in the war, which I understand, because if that ticket gets pulled, you need to be equipped to deal with it. But that shouldn't be your tool to solve everything, right? Like, if you can avoid a confrontation, and people will tell you this, I'll tell you this, and I'm sure you'll agree. As I started to learn how to fight properly, and I train, I do MMA and Jiu Jitsu, the more I've leaned into structured fighting and training, the less I've resorted to it, because you just realize it. Like, if I can talk myself out of a situation, I will 100% of the time. I'm not going to be like, oh, violence. That's how you end up in prison. That's how people don't look up to people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Having that ability, along with being able to talk with people, being intentional with people, just being true and real, and not having ulterior motives. Like, these are all the things people look up to. Having the ability to fight is like adding salt to your food. It's good. It's good at the end. But like, you're not going to add salt to everything.
Yeah, you don't, it's a very interesting culture, because inside martial arts, it's its own world. And like, I hate to say this, like, I'm not trying to trash all martial arts. If anybody's gathering that from this conversation, that's not my goal. Martial arts is extremely beneficial, but we need to look at it from a realistic lens. Like, martial arts most of the time is very similar. I'm not saying it is, but it's very similar to LARPing. Like, you dress up in your outfits, right? You wind up going into your class. There's a hierarchy that's already set into place that doesn't matter outside of this place. Like, that's Grandmaster Steve Phillips. All right, well, what happens when he's on the basketball court? He's getting fucking dunked on. Like, that's not Grandmaster there, like, he's just some dude. Like, and that's the thing, is like, we put people on these pedestals based off these hierarchies that we made up. We make these things up. Like, jiu-jitsu is probably one of the most fascinating martial arts to me, and it's not because of its effectiveness. It's because there is not really a true structure. And like, what I mean by that is, yes, you can look at like the IBJJF standard of what like it takes to get a black belt, but those don't say you get a black belt here. They say minimum times. So it's like, you have to have your white belt at least X amount of time. It should take you around this amount of time to get your blue belt, but there's nothing set in stone. But with that structure, there also doesn't seem to be a universal curriculum. Like, every jiu-jitsu academy you go to is going to have a different curriculum. And then inside those structures, there isn't really a test most of the time. Some gyms do a formal test. You need to show us A, B, C, and D, right? And then we'll give you a black belt. But that is probably one of the most structured ways to do it, to prove. But what happens if the person has cerebral palsy? What happens if the person's morbidly obese? What happens if the person has had a stroke? What happens if the person's missing a leg or an arm? Like, some techniques require both arms or both legs. So what do you do if they don't have them? Like, do they not deserve a black belt now because they can't perform? So it's like a very difficult thing to like really pin down and say, like, this is exactly what it takes to be a black belt. And in my opinion, anyway, I think the only thing that's required to be a black belt is a conversation I had with my instructor, which was when I got my purple. and I didn't feel like I deserved it. And he asked me why, and I was like, I just don't feel like I should be at this level. And he goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Sure. What is it?" He goes, "Can you kick your own ass?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "If you met the person who walked through these doors the first day, could you beat him up?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can fuck that dude up, no problem." He goes, "Then you deserve your purple belt." And that was a conversation. But I started looking at that deeper. Like, that's a very like blunt way of putting it, right? Because
Yeah,
when
I
I'm
got told the same story too. That's
like
crazy.
when I'm 70, I couldn't kick his ass. Like when I'm 70, that guy walking in the door is gonna fuck me up, right? So like, what is this meaning? So, but I think what I really gathered from it was the only real competition you have isn't on the mat and it's not in the ring. It's you. Martial arts is a very independent sport, and yes, you do have people that come and go and help you and train you, but ultimately, this is you against you every time you step on the mat. Like, who's taking you to your class? Who's making you go? Who's taking care of your diet? Who's getting you to do the extra rep? Who's telling you to stay late? Like, that's all decisions you have to make. And so by doing those decisions, by doing that work, it tells you a lot about you and how you're going to be better tomorrow. And that is supplementary. That's something that happens outside of martial arts, because it'll help you make those decisions in other aspects of your life. Like, did you work a little harder? Did you get that extra paperwork in? Did you do it early? Did you stay late? Did you work harder? Like, that will determine how good you are in anything. So the martial arts can be a beautiful thing, but you could be taken advantage of so easy and manipulated so easy.
Yeah, it's very subjective, and it's very important to surround yourself with a good gym, a good academy, good coaches, because they would have the ability to do that, to either push you or keep you where they want you, and for whatever reason. And I had a similar conversation with one of my coaches, Mike Wilkins. Shout out, Mike. Um, he's gonna probably listen to this and be like, "Yeah," but he told me the same thing. He's like, "Hey," because I'm like blue belt. I'm like, "Well, how do you promote people? Like, what is your metrics for promotion?" And he told me the same thing. He's like, "Well, it just depends, man. Like, if I have someone who competes in jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu, and that's their goal, I'm going to promote them differently than someone who comes in here as a hobbyist and wants to learn self-defense to protect themselves and their family. Or we have a lot of cops in our gym, or someone who's a cop. Like, I'm going to promote them differently because they have a different set of standards to operate under. So I'm going to promote them in their way, and them being like you as a person." He told me that same thing. He said, when you came in to the gym, or even last year, a year ago, could you beat that person physically in a fight, with technique, with the principles you know now, and your mindset? Are you going to stick into the fight? Are you going to quit? Or are you going to keep going? Are you going to do the extra rep? Would you win? Well, yeah, absolutely. I'd smoke that dude, because I am, hindsight, way different mentally, physically, emotionally. I adapt under pressure better now because of my training and experience. So I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, that's what I would base my promotion on for you. But like, it's different. It's very subjective, and it almost has to be, because. But then it's a good question. It's a good question to ask. Like, hey, how are you promoting?
Yeah,
Well,
I
if you're
mean,
here
I
for
think
2 years, I'll
that
promote you.
any good coach, in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion, and everybody's going to have their own, and that's fine. But in my opinion, I think a good coach is someone who helps their student, or their client, however you want to put it, reach their goals. That's it. That's what makes you a good coach. So if you're shoving other goals down their throat that they don't want, in my opinion, it doesn't make you a good coach. If you're shoving competition down their throat and their goal was to lose 30 pounds for a gastric bypass surgery, if you don't help them lose the 30 pounds, and even it doesn't matter how many gold medals they win, that wasn't their goal. You didn't help them reach or achieve the thing they showed up for. So you're not really a good coach. Like, if you're trying to help people and you're trying to change people, you have to make sure that you're stepping outside of your own ego for a second and saying, it's not about what I want. It's not about my legacy. It's not about my gym. It's about my student. Every single one of those people that walk through that door are going to tell you what they want. They're going to say it one way or another. And if they don't, it's your job as a coach to ask. And no matter what that answer is, it's your job to guide them in the right direction. So for instance, if somebody comes up to your gym and you're all 100% jiu-jitsu, and they say, I want to be a kickboxer, but you don't have anyone on your staff to help them learn how to be a kickboxer, are you being a good coach by saying, why don't you try jiu-jitsu instead? I mean, it might be something they fall in love with, but you didn't help them reach their goal. You didn't help them do the thing that they wanted to attempt. So a good coach would say, you know what? We don't provide kickboxing here. I know a great kickboxer. If you've been doing this for a long time, you know everybody in your area. I know a great kickboxer. He's across the street. How about this? Come in, try the class, see if it's something that you like. Maybe you find new goals. But if that doesn't work out for you, I'll help you out, get over there. And that, again, it's not about you. The moment we decided to become coaches is the moment we put ourselves in the back seat and we made sure that we were taking care of our students first. That's my opinion.
That's a very good opinion, because that is true. If I come in here and I say my goal is to just whoop everyone's ass, you got to pump the brakes, right? Because is that a good goal?
Mm.
Like there's something stemming. Oh, do you lack confidence? Do you want to build confidence? Is jiu-jitsu going to help you build that confidence? Well, okay, now you have to dissect what's going on with your student. And I get it. If you have an academy with 100 people, a class, like it'll be tough to do, but taking that extra step forward to try and dissect, hey, why are you here? What can we do for you? Hey, this goal you have, it's not something our school kind of pushes for. Like you said, I know a guy who can teach that. Like, what we can teach you here is this, boom, 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 boom. If that aligns and that fits, by all means, help build that person. Because everyone talks about legacy, especially in martial arts. It's always a legacy. If you approach it the right way, the legacy will come.
Mm-hmm.
The legacy will come. But if you're self-fulfilling every single time, people are going to see through that. So my question to you is, how did you get into doing this? You've been training martial arts for over 2 decades, all kinds of different martial arts. We see people go professional fighting or, heavy in a competition, or you kind of taking the route of like, I'm going to fall on the sword and say the shit that people don't want to say or have the conversations that are fucking tough to do. Like, but how did you get into kind of going into exposing these bad practices and these bad behaviors and pushing, kind of being, not to sound corny or cheesy, but being an advocate for the martial arts community?
Well, so I started when I was 12 because I was getting the shit beat out of me in school, right?
Okay, so you were that guy.
I was like, well, that
I want to
sucks.
beat people up.
So I got jumped outside of a gym class. A group of kids jumped me. They beat the hell out of me for 5 minutes from the time the bell rang to the time the bell rang. So that's how I know it was 5 minutes. Then a friend, he was like my only friend in middle school. He was late to that class. So like I'm laying there bleeding. And he waddled. I always give him a hard time. He's a bigger, heavier set guy. So he's like walking towards me in that waddle manner. And he like picks me up and he walks me to the nurse. And like 2 teachers, by the way, stood there and watched the entire beating. Did nothing, did not help me. Like they just watched. I don't know why. To this day, I couldn't tell you. I may have my assumptions, but ultimately they did nothing. So when he was walking me to the nurse's office, he handed me a card. And the card was like a free trial martial arts card. And he was like, you need this. And that's all we said to each other. I just took it and, I'm beat on. I don't want to talk. So I took that home to my mom and I wind up handing it to her. And I said, I really like to do this. And she was worried because of my surgeries and all the things I had gone through as a kid that I would mess up my surgeries. Like I'd break my nose again, or I'd like have to go open my stitches back up because I was going through a ton of surgeries at the time. And so this time she said, maybe. I wind up going home a month later. It was my birthday, 12th birthday. I go home, there's a cake, there's a box and a card. Card had some money in it, thanks mom. And I open up the box and it was just a piece of paper in there. And the piece of paper, I was, as a kid, you're like, what am I?
Where's the money?
Yeah, like, all right, cool. She was like, read it. And I read it and she had paid in full for a martial arts classes for an entire year. And she goes, your uniform is waiting for you at the school. And so my first class was on my birthday. And every year on my birthday, I celebrate another year in the industry. My birthday was April 12th. And so now I'm officially 28 years in.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm getting old. It's officially 40.
Inexperienced.
Yeah, experienced.
Experienced.
Called back pain. So, I'm real experienced right in here in my knee. But yeah, so years later, this is what I've dedicated myself to. I didn't know what I was going to do. Every 5 years kind of changes what I want to do. So like at first, all I wanted to do was be able to fight because I was tired of getting the shit beat out of me. So like, I want to think for like that first 5 years, that's what I did. I was in the gym. All I cared about, I want to be proficient and I want this to be effective. So I was in the gym. My first competition was a month after I started. I started fighting in nightclub bars at 15. I was going to nightclub fights to help with the demo team at 14. 15, I was fighting in the nightclub bars. And I did that until I became on Team Full Circle and competition. And then after I got to international competition, I realized this was not gonna. I'm not up to par. Sorry, like it's not gonna happen. Like when you start fighting guys from like Team Germany and stuff like that, who like the state has like the country has like given them all the tools and all the money and all the resources, and they live inside the dojo literally. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna win. So like I got
it takes a man to realize like, hey,
yeah,
I'm gonna go this way.
I did the best I could, right? I gave it the old college try, but on the grand scheme of things, I just realized that, this is not going to be my life. So way leads to way. I wind up working at a jiu-jitsu academy. I'm a striking coach, and I'm helping with the kids' classes. And then every once in a while, I'd assist with the adults. And I got a phone call from my boss during a noon class, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm sick," which his dude's never sick. He's a machine. He's like, "I'm sick. Would you teach the class for me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, not a problem." I teach the class. And then because it's noon, everybody just kind of hangs out afterwards. So we're all chit-chatting, shooting the shit, and the subject of McDojos came up. And we're all talking about what that is to us, right? This is a McDojo, that's a McDojo. And we're tossing the word around very freely. And a guy, it was his first actual class. So he's like really listening because he had never done any martial arts before. And when we were all done, everyone left except for him. And he stayed back and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm a little embarrassed. You guys were talking about something called a McDojo," which, by the way, is a term that's been around before I was ever even born. And he goes, "What is that?" And I go, "Well," I gave him my understanding of what a McDojo was at the time, which has drastically changed now. And he asked me a very white belt question, which is a solid question. He goes, "Why doesn't anybody do anything about that?" It's like, man, I don't know. I really don't know. That is a good fucking question. Like, I've been in this since I was a child. Like, and I've never thought about that before. Why doesn't anybody do anything about this? So I went home that night. I looked up, I saw Bullshido forums. I looked into like what people's ideas of what a McDojo was. And I realized that night, no one had actually defined this. And the definitions that were out there were very opinion based, nothing actual that could be tangible or factual. So I took it that next day. I started McDojo Life. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been a hell of a job. It's a weird ass job, man. There was no blueprint. No one was like, "Here's how you do this job." I was like, just dived in, and I've been figuring out as I go.
Just talk shit on social media.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
No, and that's interesting. So that's cool because when I started this, I'm like, oh, I don't want it to be a MMA podcast. There's a lot of people who do it well.
Mhm.
And I dabble in MMA. I train jiu-jitsu and stuff, and I go to the fights and I talk to a lot of the fighters. And what kind of got me was everyone's story, right? So I'm like, dude, I'll just talk to people about their stories. Everyone has a different story, and influences and why they're doing this, why they're still doing it, why they haven't quit, or why they pivoted from MMA to this. Like, so it's a very it's a very interesting thing to get into. And you took the route of like, again, I hate to say this because I said it earlier, and you're like being an advocate in the community, and that's exactly what it is.
I really like what I do, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Having to understand what I do is I just kind of an investigative journalist, and I try to make sure that people are informed about the things that are going on in the industry that are nefarious. That's of course evolved over the years, and how deep and how hard I go in the paint when it comes to the frauds has changed. But ultimately, I just want to leave the industry better than how I found it. That's all I care. And if I could do that, I feel like I've accomplished my job.
No, that's huge because I hear this all the time being in the jiu-jitsu community. It's like, oh man, I went to this gym and the way they did this. I had an experience. I went to a gym in the area before I found Stout, and I had amateur MMA fights, but like no real training on the ground. So I go in there and they're like, "Do you have any jiu-jitsu experience?" No. I say, "No, I don't. Technically, I don't." My first day, dude, I get an elbow, boom, to the face. I'm like, fuck, like, okay. And I'm like, now I'm trying to survive on the ground because I just got busted up. I get another one. So I'm like, okay, this is jiu-jitsu. So I fucking put my shoulder into his head. Now we're kind of like doing these exchanges where it's no longer jiu-jitsu. And I left that gym. I'm like, dude, fuck this place. Like, dude was an asshole. Like, I know in policing, a new person comes in. I'm not the FTO or the trainer that's going to be like, "Yes, what you gonna do?" I'm like, hey, I know you're new. I understand you're new. This is a whole new world. Like, I'm here to answer any questions you have and make this the easiest transition into this career, right? Because I want you to stay. I want you to flourish in this because, one, it's an industry I'm involved in, and two, it's my department I'm trying to get you to stay at. I want you to be here for the best of reasons and have good intention. You know, so that's how I applied it. When I was in this, I'm like, I would never fucking treat a new person like that. Like, if that's what jiu-jitsu is, I tell you, I have no experience and you fucking just put me through the ringer. You know, and I went to other schools and I found the school I'm at now, and I'm like, it was night and day. So this is something you hear in jiu-jitsu all the time. It's like people get shied away or thrown away from training because they're like, man, I don't want to be involved. And if this is what it is, this is what it means. Fuck this. You see the videos online of the gauntlet, and you're like, fuck that. Like, someone who's never trained jiu-jitsu or never trained martial arts, and you're seeing like, this is what it is. No, I don't want to involve in that. Like, that's great. I just want to better my health and learn how to defend myself if I have to. I don't want to have to get whipped. Like, I didn't get beat by my parents, and I'm going to get beat by, I got beat by my mom, but I deserved all of it. But, you know, somebody like, it's a whole different culture, and it's a culture shock. So instead of transitioning people into, hey, this is what it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to be put in very uncomfortable positions, but I promise you by the end of class, you will be okay, because we're going to make sure. Now, a lot of different gyms don't approach that. A lot of different academies don't approach it that way. So it's something you see in the industry throughout, across all kinds of different martial arts, and you don't pick a favorite. You call it what it is, and that's something. That's why I've always followed your page. One, I thought it was a meme page, and I was like, this is fucking hilarious. Dude just blew on a student, and the student flew. Like, and then, but I had no idea you were actually going deep and like, almost like you said, investigative journalist. You're going in there and you're doing your research. You're putting the time in to allow for people to have an educated decision to make at the end of the day.
Yeah,
because if you see all the bad,
it's all about asking questions. Like, we're in an industry where questions sometimes are frowned upon, and it shouldn't be. If you're a white belt and you ask a question, your instructor should be elated, happy to answer your question, because that means you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't say anything. You would just stop showing up. But if you care, you're going to ask questions, and you're going to want to figure out how to get better at this. And somewhere along the line, from white belt to black belt, a lot of instructors forget how to be a white belt. They forget that when they open up a martial arts studio, for instance, that they've never run a martial arts studio before. Even if they were coaches at another gym, that doesn't mean that they've owned a martial arts studio and they know the business practices. Maybe all they did was just teach classes, and for some reason they feel like now they can just open up a studio and it's going to run well because they're a good instructor. And that's not how this works. That'd be great, but there's a lot that goes into it. That white belt mentality is so important to keep, because that's how we start anything. We start everything we do with, I don't know. So like, either you don't know and you're happy with that. There's plenty of shit I don't know how to do, and I'm happy. I don't know how to skydive. You know what? I'm happy about that. I'll be okay.
You should learn. It's a good time.
I'm okay without it, right? I'm terrified of heights, right? There's plenty I don't know. I don't know how to speak Spanish. When I care enough about the I don't know, I'll figure out how. But right now, I just don't care. But eventually you hit a wall with something. You go, you know, I actually really care about this thing I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's learn about it. And then that's where the passion for anything grows, is you're like, oh my God, this is all fresh and new. All of this information is coming in. I absolutely love that. But it's almost like a plague, a disease in our industry, where you get to a certain belt rank and it's just, you know, everything. I can tell you one thing right now. None of us know everything. I figure out shit about this job every day. I feel more clueless every day I do this.
The more
job.
you know, the less you know.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, you learn about a different cult or a different ideology or thought process. You're like, shit, I never thought about that before. Let's dig in. Let's figure this out. But if it wasn't for that white belt thought process of like, I don't know, let's figure it out, well, why would you do anything? Once you know how to do something and you feel like you know everything about that thing, it becomes kind of boring. Like, don't you want to keep it fresh and new? Like, there's so much to learn in this industry. Like, one of my favorite, it's a very like weird juxtaposition in our industry that I don't get, but it's really funny to me. So when I started karate, and you go to tournament karate, you have two different factions of people that go. You have the kata people and you have the fighters, right? The fighters would always make fun of the kata people when I was growing up, right? Because those guys didn't fight. Not saying everybody. There are definitely people who would do both. But a lot of kata people would just do kata because it was something that they felt was good for them, how they wanted to train. The irony of that is that all the guys who were fighters, even top fighters, most of them drop out, quit. they become champions, and then their body stops at around 30 something years old, right? You can only be a fighter for so long. The guys who would do kata, who would get relentlessly teased and picked on, those people wind up doing something like going to 8711 stunt teams. They become world champions and they become stunt performers, and they wind up becoming super famous and making hand over fist money. All the fighters who would make fun of the kata people will still show up to the movie that those guys did and shell out those people's paychecks now. Like, oh, I love John Wick. Shell out paychecks. You know, all the guys you were making fun of for kata are all the stunt people in that movie. Like, you're just shelling out their paycheck. And so martial arts, we have this ego and bravado about ourselves. Like, we just know. Like, no, fuck you don't. None of us do. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to fight people. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do kata that people make fun of all the time. Because what they don't see the forest for the trees. They see somebody kicking and punching and screaming on stage in a competition, make fun of it all day. But then they'll see the brand new martial arts movie coming out, not realizing that same guy they were making fun of is the head of the stunt team who did that movie that they absolutely love. Like, the irony there is just hilarious to me. I laugh every time people make fun of kata. I'm like, you're going to pay that guy's paycheck. Like, you just don't know it yet.
It goes back to what's your goal?
Yeah.
You know, like, what's your goal? You want to be a fighter? Cool. You got it.
You
want to move on and get into movies and be a part of you know, because we've seen good movies and bad movies. John Wick, phenomenal. The way his weapon handling, he reloads at the right time. Like, he hires these people so he can do things the right way.
Yeah.
Like, and you're a part of that integral process. That's a good goal to have. That's an awesome, even if it wasn't something you envisioned, you can sit back and be like, damn, look where martial arts is taking me. I'm at a movie set.
Yeah. Making hand over fist money.
Yeah.
Getting paid by the same people who were making fun of you. Like, oh man, this 5-star restaurant, it's so good. Thank you for making fun of me and paying my bills. Thank you. They don't give a shit. Like, they're so talented. They're so talented. Like, I'm gonna be in LA this coming up weekend, and then in another month, I'm gonna teach like a 2-week string of seminars out there. But every time I go, I try to swing by 8711 and just like go hang out. Like, even if you don't train with them, because a lot of times they're working on like movie stuff, and so it's not like an open gym. But I'll just go and just watch them exist. And it's like a fantasy. Like, these guys can almost fly with like the kicking techniques they do, the stuff. Shit, I can't even do a fucking back handspring, and they're like flying in the air. And it's so impressive. But the stuff that they had to go through in competition, like the people online and how brutal they are to them, like, you really don't understand what you're saying. Like, you're saying the stupidest shit because you're a 20-year-old who thinks it's all about testosterone and beating people up. Get to be 40. Like, get all the way to 40, right? Let your body beat itself up a little bit, lose a couple fights, realize that this isn't your life that you thought it was going to be, because it's a very hard life and most people drop very quickly. You have those 3 show-year-old gis in your closet that you bought when you were a white belt that you thought you were going to be this national champion. And you realize you're not. Like, most people are never going to get there. Most people don't even compete. So what do you want out of this? All you want out of this is to feel like you're better than everybody else. You're in the wrong business, because you'll be humbled real quick. But if your goal is to actually make yourself better in some way, you're too busy making yourself better. Like, you're so busy worrying about that. Like, you don't really have time to go, that guy's doing punches and kicks in the air. That's stupid. Like, what's shadow boxing? Like,
punching in the air.
But they're punching and kicking in the air in kata, and they're working on technique that might apply to standing, clench. It might apply to like underhooks, overhooks, right? But since they're doing it in the air, it looks goofy and funny. But then when you do shadow boxing, you don't make fun of that, which is literally the same thing. Like, it's the same shit. What? I don't get it.
Yeah. Some martial arts does get a lot of heat and flack. And I was guilty of it back in the day, and then I started training, and I'm like, oh, this is just another way to kick my ass. That's not fun.
It's just a different practice, man.
Different practice, another method of violence. How has, so now you're traveling and doing seminars, so like you're out doing it and getting after it. How did that come to be? Like, now you're exposing these gyms, you're doing good things, you're telling the things that need to be told. But now you're also teaching how to leverage social media for your business, for martial arts business, that I'm sure the principles are similar that you can apply to other businesses as well. So how did that come to be that now you're instructing in different things in the martial arts community.
No, I mean, I've always been an instructor. I mean, I started when I was 12 years old, and it's really been the only job I've ever really known. I mean, the only other two jobs I've really had outside of martial arts were when I was younger. Like I worked at UPS when I was in high school for like a year or two. And then later on down the road, I was a manager at a McDonald's for like a year. Like ultimately martial arts. And during those times, I was still working in the martial arts industry. I was just getting some extra dough. And I did do a little construction work here and there. But like ultimately, I was just a supplemental income so I can continue to teach martial arts. Like that's been my entire life. So I was an instructor from the time I think I became an assistant instructor at about 15, 16. I was assisting classes. And then about 17, 18, I became more of a full-time instructor right out of high school. And then I was an instructor forever. And then it was just changed where I instructed and what I taught. But ultimately, martial arts instructor has been my primary source of income the majority of my life. And then when McDojo Life kind of blew up, like I had to make a decision about what I was going to put my time and effort and energy to. And I was like, I can't live in this gym and still do this job. Like I have to pick one or the other. So I decided, since I've been doing martial arts my entire life, like let me try to change it up a little bit and do McDojo Life more as my full-time career. And then martial arts is no longer my job. I can make it just fun again. Like I can just do it because I want to. I'm not because I have to be there. And so that helped me mentally, honestly, with loving martial arts again. Because when you're in the gym every day, burnout is so real because you have to be there. And now it feels like an obligation. And that's like a step closer to hating it.
Yeah.
And then McDojo Life came, started doing that, and I dedicated a lot more time and effort and energy into being behind this desk. I got stacks and stacks of papers on my desk of like, I got a pad full of frauds right here. There's a pad full of sex offenders right here. My business plan for my facility I'm working on is under that. Like, there's just stacks of stuff here I always have to work on. So then I was like, man, I'm just kind of fucking tired of being behind this desk all the time. Let me go teach again. And so since I started putting out the feelers to start teaching again, some people were just like, I didn't know you did that. But then others were like, oh, that's awesome. So I like flew over to London like a couple years back and taught a nunchuck seminar, which was dope. I got my first little death threat over there, which was like a victory for me.
International death threats.
Yeah,
you're
great.
Big time now.
And then I've been doing seminars. I did a great seminar last year in Houston at a Krav Maga school. That was great. It was a packed house. We did 3 hours. And then now I'll be going to Chicago coming up. I'm teaching a seminar in Chicago, which I had to move. And then I am going to be going to LA, and I'm going to be teaching in LA for like a week straight, from like weekend to weekend. So like a Friday all the way to like the next following Sunday. I love teaching. It's a passion of mine. And I typically keep it very simple. Like I've had a fortunate career where I have had the ability to work with some great people and really listen and pick their brain and learn. I teach some stuff that I learned from Bill Wallace. I teach some stuff that I learned from Boz Rutan. I teach some stuff that I learned from Dwayne Ludwig. I teach some stuff that I learned from Lyoto Machida. And I like teaching my seminars with like those little spices of stuff that I learned from other people, because they might not be able to go to some of those seminars or listen to those people. So I have like little nuggets that I learned from these people over the years that I like to sprinkle in my seminar.
I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Karbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Karbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Karbo Jewelers or online at karbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Karbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at karbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com. And I love attending seminars like that, because it goes to show you when you come in and you're like, hey, I'm teaching you things that I've learned from all these amazing people. You're connecting things too. Now, I go to your seminar and I'm like, oh, I want to dive more into this thing that he mentioned. Let me go take one of their seminars now too. And it kind of sharpens your tool and adds more tools to the tool belt, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's cool when you get instructors like that because they're multifaceted, and especially in law enforcement. When I get an instructor who's like, this is the way we're going to do it, I'm like, this is going to suck. And it may be well or whatever, but when an instructor comes in, he's like, hey, look, this ain't the way, this is a way. These are these are the people I've learned from, and I've kind of applied it to how I do things. And now I'm going to push that onto you. I encourage you to keep training, keep learning. It kind of equips your students or your clients or however you refer to these people to better themselves overall. And is that the goal if you're an instructor, if you're teaching?
Yeah, there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing the light bulb go off in someone's mind. Like, oh, like you can tell that they just learned something that they're going to utilize, they're going to build on, they just figured out, and now it's changed their entire thought process of the game. Like when I went to the Krav Maga studio, it was very interesting to go in there because I always do like a 15-minute warm up, and the warm up is always active drills. And then I'll teach probably about 45 minutes of like stand up, just boxing techniques. I love working off the jab. It's like one of my favorite things to teach and work off of. And then I'll do some kicking drills after that. And then like the last like 30 minutes or so, instead of doing a cool down, I'll do like a Q&A. And I'll like, hey, if you want to ask anything about McDojo Life or if you have any questions. And at the Krav Maga school, it was a very interesting change of pace with the questioning because what they were asking was more about like what they had learned, because a lot of the things that I had taught them was a little different than what they were normally learning in a Krav Maga school. I'm teaching them a kickboxing seminar. And so the first thing was everyone in that class had blisters on their feet because they always train with shoes on. So after like 2 hours and something of just like training with no shoes, they were like, well, like why did we have to take our shoes off? I'm like, everybody had complained about blisters, and I was like, that's why. Like, you have blisters. I was like, you're training your mind to lie to you. You're saying that in the reality, I'll have shoes on. Well, that's not necessarily true. In reality, the best case scenario is you have shoes on. But as martial artists, I believe that we should probably train a little bit more for the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is I'm chilling at my house. I don't have my shoes on when I'm walking around my house. That's me anyway. Or I'm at the beach. I don't have shoes on when I'm walking around at the beach. Like you don't get to dictate when or where you fight another human being. So best case scenario, yeah, I have shoes on, and that'd be great, but I don't get to dictate that. And so if you're out there barefoot on concrete for some reason, you had sandals on that day, you're not going to, you ever try to fight somebody in flip-flops, you're going to kick them things off quick, I promise. But like, imagine how bad your feet would be if you didn't have some calluses on them, if you didn't work that, if they weren't trained. Like, the other thing was like the answer to everything was almost like hit him in the groin. I'm like, when I was bouncing, like, yeah, I might hit somebody in the nuts, right? Like there was a dude, he had like really baggy pants on, right? And you try to kick this dude in the balls, and it like his pants caught everything. And
he spreads his legs, and it's like almost like
like, all right, well now what? Like I thought this was it. Like, so you have to learn different ideologies or not. Another fascinating thing that I found was like a lot of self-defense gurus. I'm not just talking about Krav Maga, because this is not all Krav, but self-defense gurus in general are very anti-seminar, or not anti-seminar, anti-competition. And so they're like, oh, there's rules in competition. Like, there are rules in the street. What are you talking about? They're like, there's no rules in the street. Okay, let's play that scenario out, right? If you get caught doing something illegal in a competition, they tell you cannot do this. There is a direct consequence to you breaking that rule. In jiu-jitsu, you might lose a point. You might get stood back up. You might get disqualified. Those are direct consequences to breaking the rule. When I break a law, it operates the same way. If I don't get caught breaking a rule in competition, do I get in trouble? No. If I don't get caught breaking a law in real life, do I get in trouble? No. If I break a rule in competition, is there a direct consequence? Yes. If I break a law in real life and get caught, is there a direct consequence? Yes. Like, there are rules on the street. They're called laws. Like, we pretend there are no rules. Yes, the fuck there are. Now, if you want to break a law, you have that right. But don't get upset when you get caught, because there's going to be a direct consequence to you breaking that rule of the street, which is called the law. Like, people have these fantasies, and it's like, there are no rules on the street. Yes, there are. Like, all right, how about this? Get into a fist fight with a guy, stab him in the neck with a knife, and let's see what happens. No consequences? You'd be wrong.
Straight to
Like,
jail. Straight to jail.
like, you're going to jail.
That's
like,
so true. You
broke a
get
rule
and
of the street. Like,
you get that a lot, especially it's like, oh, I wouldn't be on my back on the street. That's
you don't
sport
know that.
jiu-jitsu. I'll
You don't
punch
know
you.
that.
And it's like, well, I'll punch you too.
Yeah,
Like,
I can also like the fun part is like people with weapons. I have a gun. I just shoot you. Like, okay, well, first of all, good luck with that jail time. But second of all, I also own a gun. Like,
yeah, like if you're not going to abide by a rule set, neither am I, because I
yeah,
have to like
have to escalate. It is what it is.
But here's the thing: I can operate under a rule set. You're telling me you can't.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well,
so if I let the trains off, I can also operate outside the rule set. If I have your arm in something and you tap, I'm operating outside the rule set. I'm breaking your arm.
yeah, you can. You can. And like it's a fascinating, like almost like a brainwashing that happens with a lot of, I'm not saying a lot, but certain like self-defense gurus will push like competition is ridiculous. You shouldn't do it because there are rules in there. It's like, well, you're first of all, in that logic, that means in order for you to be good and effective at what you do without competition, you have to seek out a way to practice this under pressure, which would be in the street, which means either you're going to end up in jail or you're going to end up dead or killing someone. Those are your options if you're really training for the streets. Or you're smart and you go to competition. And yes, there might be a rule set in there, but you just view it like a law. I have to be able to control myself in these situations. And if you're saying you can't control yourself, what does that mean? That means you have no control over this situation. If I could punch you, I can just as easily open up my hand and poke you in the eye. I can just as easily grab your hair. Like, the body mechanics of a jab or a cross are the same. The hand is the tool. So if I need to reach out and throw my thumb in your eye, the mechanics of my arm are still doing the same thing. Everything's the same movement. My hand just now becomes a tool and how I use it. So like these ideologies of like, don't train in competition because it's going to make you worse. It's going to make you better in a street fight. You now know what it's like to handle adrenaline. You know what it's like to handle pressure. You know what it's like to go against somebody who does not care about your well-being. Like, they don't give a shit. Like, if they get to dump you on your head and that's legal, they're going to do it. If I have to double leg you and then like drive you into the ground and it's legal, I'm going to try to do that. Like, I don't care about your well-being. I care about winning. Like, because you don't care about my well-being. And it's the closest thing you can really get to a street fight is by going to tournaments, whether it be boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, judo, sumo, whatever your competition rule set is, and get in there with another human being. And that's the safest, most realistic way to do it, other than taking your ass out to a real street fight and risking either going to jail or killing someone or dying. Like,
or you win, hurting yourself, breaking your hand, or hurt because we're not following a rule set. So it's probably going to be wild. You risk hurting yourself.
Yeah. It's
to not follow a rule set. It's always funny to me.
It's a fun thing to like travel and like get all these like people's different thought process. It's like a stew constantly. It's like, okay, well, this person believes this, but this person believes this. Who's right? Let's see. Let's like mix it in there and see which person has the better idea. And then you just like, the more you're in martial arts, the more you kind of like open your eyes to like, man, there's a big world out there. Like, there's not just jiu-jitsu. There's not just karate. There's like over 200 different versions of karate. So when people say karate, I go, which one? Like, are we talking about like sport karate? Are we talking about like Shotokan? Are we talking about Kyokushin? Like, there's a lot of different spice in there. And like, when you start learning that there's more than just this generalized karate, like, okay, well, how, if I learn about these other ones, maybe there's some good thoughts in each one. Maybe there are different ideas that could potentially work. And then when you watch UFC, you start to realize, like, yeah, there are some fantastic concepts in all martial arts that can apply and work in the right situations, the right training.
And the more you learn, the more you can apply and adapt. And if you just stick to one thing, I think that's where people pigeonhole themselves when they're like, oh, you can't do jiu-jitsu in the street. I've used jiu-jitsu in the street now a lot, or at work a lot. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't involve me putting a blow to someone, but guess what? I'm going to teach you something. I'm going to tell you something that's mind-blowing. If I have to, I will. Like, I'm not going to stick to just jiu-jitsu if you're punching me.
Yeah.
You're getting one too.
Yeah. Well,
like,
every time I've been in an actual street altercation since I started martial arts has only been 3 times that I wasn't paid for. I wasn't a bouncer. I wasn't in a ring. But 3 times actual altercation. And all 3 scenarios ended in standing rear naked choke. Because if you don't really do jiu-jitsu, it seems like people don't understand, like, if you go to the back, like, game is over. And so it's like, I don't want to sit here and trade with you. Like, I want you to go to sleep. And
Yeah,
so
I want
you
this
go
to
to someone's
stop.
back, put them to sleep, and you're like, oh, well, that was easy. Like, I thought this is going to be harder than that.
And you put a pillow under their head because you're like, all right,
you
dude.
lay them down and you
Yeah,
wait
we're
for them
done.
to wake up. And if they wake up violent, you put them back to sleep again and you start the process over.
That's a good point. All this you've been doing, how did Academy Safe come to be? Because that kind of like you were doing this thing, and then now you've made it more. I don't want to say official because what you're doing is official, but more structured. You've developed a structure, and then here comes Academy Safe. What is Academy Safe? What's your role in it, and what's your goal for Academy Safe?
Academysafe.org, if anyone wants to look it up. So it's academysafe.org. Was actually something that was a brainchild of Milton. Milton Campus, I do believe, is his last name, but I never use his last name, so I hope I got it right. But Milton runs a thing called Jiu Jitsu Dummies Podcast, and I have been on his show a few times. And I was constantly asked over the years from different people in the industry to like start some type of an accreditation system. But I'm only the only guy that works here. So I was like, well, that's a lot of work and I can't do that by myself. So I just like never really did anything with it. And then I randomly got a phone call from Milton. And he goes, hey, man, I'm thinking about starting something. I had something that happened to me at my gym, and it makes me want to really do this. I want to make some type of an accreditation system or a certification system, however you want to put it, to basically show schools that have gone above and beyond and done something to like make their school safer. And so we went back and forth and we talked about like what this could potentially look like. He offered me a seat on the board of directors, and he was like, vice president is open if you want it. So I went ahead and jumped at the opportunity. And then we have been working on Academy Safe now as a 501c. It's a non-for-profit for about a year, I think, at this point. And ultimately, our goal is to put good schools on a pedestal. So it's almost the opposite of what McDojo Life does. McDojo Life, I'm trying to make sure I shine a light on the bad, so that way people are aware of what's going on. Academy Safe, we're just trying to shine a light on schools that have just done the bare minimum. Background checks, CPR first aid certification, concussion course training, safe sport certification, cameras inside the gym, and insurance. Like all of these things aren't necessarily required. And like even schools that are like, well, you have to have insurance. Some schools let that lapse, and like you would never know. Like they start off with it, and then they're just like, I'm just not paying that anymore. You really need nothing to start a martial arts studio. So what we wanted to do with Academy Safe was to show, like, look, all these gyms in your area, this gym here did background checks. They did CPR first aid certification. They have cameras in the gym. They have defibrillators on site. Like that's a safer gym. Just it is. And so we thought
It's a cool concept. And it's a cool concept because let's say you have some, especially you have children that you want to train. This is almost like okay, like, obviously you guys are becoming more and more known, and it's a hub for people to go to. I'm like, hey, let me see what gyms I feel comfortable not only taking my wife or my children to, and it gives someone a little more assurance into getting into the martial arts industry in the world and training and stuff. I didn't even know you were doing that. So it's like, cool. It's like a little yin and yang. It's like, I'm going to expose the bad and highlight the good.
And I'm hoping one puts the other out of business. I would love if Academy Safe got so good and it was like became an industry standard in a way that the consumer really is going to make that decision. Our goal is to inform the consumer. It always has been. My goal with our McDojo Life has been to inform the public of what's going on. Our goal with Academy Safe is to inform the public of what's going on. It's not our right to tell people what to do with their money, time, and effort. That's not up to us. I don't tell people what to do. If you want to pay a rapist that money, that is on you. That shows a lot about your character, but that's on you. That's your decision. If you want to put your child in the hands of a registered sex offender, do I think you should be able to do that? Absolutely not. You're the parent. Make a good decision now that you know the facts. But with Academy Safe, we can say, look, this gym's clean. Like they have a clean history. They have a clean record. They want to make sure that you're safe. Like Milton had a heart attack not too long ago. Defibrillators saved his life. Like it could save yours. If you're in a martial arts studio and you don't have basic CPR first aid and an activity that will guarantee that someone eventually will get hurt, that's dumb. Like, do you need any of these things? Absolutely not. But we are going to make sure that the public is aware that you don't have any of these things. And they can make their own decisions. And I got to tell you, I don't have any kids, but if I had a child, especially doing all these stories about pedophilia and rape, if I go over to a gym and I go, can I see, is your facility background checked? Can I see them? And they say, no, we're not background checked. I'm going to another facility like that. I don't care if it's the cheapest one on the block. I don't care how many gold medals you have. None of that matters to me. Like, if you don't care about your student base enough to get basic, cheap, $35 background checks, then you are opening yourself up for failure, and you're not really giving a shit about your student safety. Because just because you've known somebody for so long does not mean that you know everything about them. And they might have skeletons in their closet. They're real good at hiding. And that, over the years with McDojo Life, I've heard this time and time again from owners who go, I had no clue. Of course you didn't, because you're a lazy piece of shit who's cheap as hell, who didn't want to do a $35 background check on your staff. Had you done that, that kid doesn't get raped. But because you were lazy as fuck, that kid now has to live with that for the rest of their life. That's a life sentence for that kid. All because what, $35? Like, and with Academy Safe, we're doing way more than that for a very cheap price. And again, it's a non-for-profit. I, for the last year, have received $0 from Academy Safe. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll continue to get $0 if that's what it takes to make sure that less kids get raped, less adults get taken advantage of by somebody with a criminal history of raping women. Like, we make a decision as a group, as a whole, as an entity, not just karate, taekwondo, judo. We need to get that segregation shit out of our fucking heads. We as a team, as martial artists, deserve to put together something that leaves the next generation better than what we found. And if we don't, what are we doing? We're just leaving it up to chance. We hope someone doesn't get raped. We have tools to stop it right now. Why aren't we? And that's why we do what we do. We can stop this. We can make it better.
And you see this in the corporate world. Like, when you go apply for a job, they run your background.
Yeah.
These schools or academies are jobs. They're businesses. Like,
it's like the last bastion of cults. Like, I really like looking at it from McDojo Life standpoint. It really seems to be like one of the last industries that is kind of a wild, wild west. Not really regulated. No one seems to be looking into it. But what people forget is that freedom that you have as a martial arts instructor now. Should you do background checks even though you don't have to? Absolutely. Should you get CPR first aid certification even though you don't need to? Absolutely. Should you get cameras in your facility? Yes, absolutely. It doesn't just save your student from having to like talk about a situation. It saves you. If you don't do anything wrong, the cameras show you weren't even there at the time of the date of the accusation. Like, these are tools to help save everybody. And the people who are resistant to that, they'll phase out. Like, you'll phase out, or what I fear is the government will step in, which is already happening. Like, the government has already tried to step in many times to regulate martial arts, and sometimes has been successful at the detriment to the public. New York, for instance, had something called the diaphragm bill. The diaphragm bill was something that was put into place because of a knee-jerk reaction to an incident that happened in New York. Now, when you look at that diaphragm bill, what it says is that a police officer cannot put pressure on an assailant's diaphragm in any way, shape, or form. That means mount, back mount, side control, knee on belly, front bear hug, rear bear hug, and more. Right? So all of the safest ways to apprehend somebody are now taken off the table. And now police officers had to go through that horrific tape I saw. God damn, that training was terrible. That Aikido crap. And you're trying to Aikido somebody who's on meth and trying to stab you in the neck with a knife. But don't sit on him now. Like, you could lose your job. And they could still kick. You could still punch. You could still slam an assailant on his fucking head. You can still taser them. You can still shoot them. So we've taken police officers under duress who might not have continued education because the money was not put in for them to have jiu-jitsu training or any of that. All that gets put out the window. You've taken away all of the safest ways to apprehend an assailant. And you've said, you know what, but you can still shoot them. And you put that in the hands of somebody who has not very good training, not extensive training, and they freak out. What do you think they're going to do? You've almost left them with no choice. We could do better. But if we don't self-regulate, shit like that is going to happen more. And I'll give you one more example that is starting to happen right now in New York as well. Another martial arts family, The son got brought up on 42 counts of child molestation charges. 42 counts, right? Caught dead to rights. It was an extensive, what do you call it?
Investigation.
Thank you. Multiple police entities, different departments were hunting and making sure, monitoring what he was doing, right? So he's caught dead to rights. He, even after getting arrested, admitted to some of these crimes. Well, his father, before that, years before that, before he was even born, was convicted of third-degree rape. Well, in New York, third-degree rape is anyone who was over the age of 21 having sex non-consensually, because if they're a minor, that can't be consensual, with anyone under the age of 17. So he was at least 21, 22. She was at least 16, 15 years old, right? So, like, that was rape. Well, he gets brought up on this, but because of a plea deal, his case got sealed. And so because that case is sealed, unless you were really looking for it, like you go to the clerk of courts, you can see it there, but you can't look into the file. You can just see that it was a conviction of third-degree rape. That's it. Well, if you just look up what that is, suddenly you know, but not a lot of people did that. So he was able to make a franchise in New York, 6 martial arts schools, where his son had access to his victims. Now, had the system not been as flawed and fucked up as it is, that guy should have never been able to own a martial arts studio. His son would have never had access to those victims years later. But he did. So now what's happening is New York is trying to change their policies to make it so that way if you run an after-school program in New York, you have to have background checks taken care of. So what's happening is, whether you like it or not, the evil is going to keep being evil. And as they keep being evil, the good is going to try to find a way to stop that evil. Well, sometimes it's an overreaction, but sometimes it's a justified one. And in this case, it's a justified one. If you run a martial arts studio, you damn well should have background checks. And if you run an after-school program, which is kind of the lifeblood of a lot of schools, kids programs bring in a lot of money, you should have background checks. And so the question is, are you not doing background checks now because you don't have to and you want to save $35? Meaning you don't give a shit if one of your instructors rapes a kid because you didn't know, but you could have. Or do you want to step up to the plate, do it before it's required, so that way maybe the government does not overreach and does not put in regulations that might destroy your business? Because it's going to be one or the other. Like, either we do it on our own and we make sure that everyone starts doing it on their own, or the government's going to require you to, and then some. That's just how it's going to go.
No, that's a good point. If we aren't doing the steps necessary to prevent bad things from happening, how can you be upset when someone comes in and does?
Yep.
And that someone doesn't, and then this is the argument, the government doesn't know anything about martial arts. What it takes to, you're right, you do. So why don't you do the things necessary so that someone who has no idea comes in and does it for you?
Exactly.
You know, there's another thing with chokes now, like, especially in our area, it is now in a lot of policies where you can't utilize a choke on someone. And even if it's deadly force, like, how are you going to, it's ruled as deadly force. So if I'm in fight for my life, I can't choke them. Let's say deadly force is warranted for the scenario.
Yeah.
I can't choke them because now I risk violating policy and getting in trouble, but I can shoot you. But if I choke you, and I'm trained and equipped and I have experience in this, if I choke you, 3 to 6 seconds, you're going night-night. I've dissolved the situation, and guess what? Then that gives me enough time to get off, handcuff you, roll you to your side, let you wake up, boom, get you cleared medically. Now I can get medics. Hey, I cut his blood supply for a little bit. He came back. He's good, but can you just check him over, make sure everything's okay?
Yeah, like, you see, if someone knew, like, if the policymakers actually understood martial arts, right? And this is just my opinion. What you would say is, all right, we're going to make sure that our police forces are at least at the level of blue belt. Well, I mean, we're looking at 1.5 years, 2 years, but if you're doing this like hardcore and this is what you do, you can probably get your blue belt in like a year. So, like,
sure.
We're saying, like, we're going to put you through an academy, right? You're going through a police academy. I don't know how long a police academy lasts.
About 6 months.
So if I put you through and I say, yo, 6 months, you're doing jiu-jitsu every goddamn day. It's a part of your training. We're not asking you. Like, you're going to go hands-on. If you're a police officer, eventually you will go hands-on in your job, most likely, right? Unless you're pushing papers. So if you're going to go hands-on, you better know how to do it efficiently. And you go through a program and you have something instilled and you say, hey, you're on 6 months probation when you do become a police officer. and that's contingent on you continuing your education to receive your blue belt all the way up to that next 6 months through our program. Like, you have to continue to train. They're gonna fucking do it, because if they don't, they're gonna lose their goddamn job. And like, we're already like, police officer training is so sporadic. Like, certain counties have a good old boy network where they know Uncle Steve down the road, and who did like some Shotokan karate once, and now he's teaching the officers there because he got hired on a contract. And some are like really pushing, like Gracie Academy is making a heavy push with Henner and his team. Tom DeBlas is making a heavy push. The BJJ Cops, who's local to me actually, he's making a heavy push. He's been doing a lot of law enforcement training. Like, those guys really know what they're doing, and they really want to make sure that the police and law enforcement know what's going on and how to defend themselves, but that's still a very optional thing. This is continued education. Like, that I think is a little more important than saying, all right, we're going to make this illegal. Like, if someone knew what that was as a blue belt, you put someone to sleep, you're going to let him go. Like, oh, he's sleeping. All right,
yeah,
wake up.
and that's what blows my mind as a cop. We train the de-escalation, which, what is de-escalation, right? Like, de-escalation is a environment you create to allow someone to decide to de-escalate. But even these classes, so de-escalation classes, how to talk to people classes, let's go to this. And autism awareness was a good training I went to, because it helps you kind of understand what's going on and approach. So like, we have all these other trainings that you have to go to. Learning how to control a subject with hands-on, that's not something that's required. I know in Pennsylvania, they just mandated 4 hours of defensive tactics training, every officer, which they had 0. So I'm like, 4 hours. Cool. That's good. A year. I'm like, okay, that's a start.
Yeah. I mean,
the first curriculum by the state, handcuffing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
What's
all right.
really
I mean,
funny about that is, like,
we're almost there, I guess.
If you train martial arts, right, as like let's say a blue belt, right? Because blue belt is like, in Jiu Jitsu, it could be 4 years, 3 years, it could be 27 fucking years as a blue belt, right? Blue belt, you run the gambit. But like, as a blue belt, most white belts, that means they may have been training for 6 months, they may have been training for a year and a half. Some get up to 2, and some just never fucking show up, so they're never gonna get better. But they they've had their white belt for like 30 something years or whatever. But like, most blue belts usually can wrap up white belts pretty easily, right? And that's somebody who does train. Like, that's somebody who does know what they're doing, right? Now, like, take that blue belt and put him against somebody who has no clue what they're about to get themselves into. And that police officer still has deployables. He still has his pepper spray. He still has his taser. He still has his firearm if necessary. Still has usually a nightstick of some kind, like, or a baton. So ultimately, you have all these tools, and I can kill you with my hands.
Yeah.
So if I could do that, I'd just rather do that. Or I pepper spray you, and then, of course, it sucks to pepper spray anybody because you also get hit. It sucks every time. But like,
we go through pepper spray training where we learn to deal with it, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You get in there.
I hit you, I hit you with the pepper spray, and now I go hands-on with you. Like, I don't need to see. Like, at this point, if I'm just hands-on with you, yeah, I should be able to see what's going on in my surroundings and all that. But really, if I'm hands-on, I just need to be able to subdue you. And I use the tool to help me do that easier. But if I don't know how to subdue you without the pepper spray, right? Why am I carrying it? Because now if we go hands-on and you're close enough, you might start reaching for the gun, you might start reaching for the taser, you might start reaching for the pepper spray. And last time I checked anyway, it's considered deadly force is authorized if they start reaching for your taser.
Yes.
Like, because now, like, they tase you and they can get a hold of your gun, you're dead. Like, so at this point, if you don't know how to go hands-on with another human being who knows nothing, like, in my opinion, it just makes it so that way it's more dangerous, not only for the police officer, but for the assailant, because now you might be forced to kill them when you didn't have to. Like, you might be put in that situation. It's like, well, if I knew what I was doing, I would have never gotten to this position in the first place. But it's
for sure.
Sad. It's just sad that the training, like, martial arts as a whole, has been around for thousands of years, and it's been implemented in military and law enforcement and all kinds of, like, different organizations, but it's still so, like, unregulated. Even in, like, the police forces, they're like, I guess you should learn martial arts. I don't fucking care. Get out there, be somebody. Like, what are you talking about? Like, shouldn't you teach me how to do this? Nah, fuck it, you'll be fine.
Teach yourself.
Yeah,
Which, and I'm a huge proponent of this. So, like, there's no excuse. Like if your department's not big on this, take it upon yourself to do it.
Mm.
Right? Like a lot of these people will go train at the gym, we'll go lift weights, but it's like, why isn't learning how to subdue someone and control someone? Why isn't that a part of your routine?
I
Like
mean,
that should be
you
part of your
have to.
routine. Even with tasers. Okay, I tase you. You hit the ground. Taser's 5 seconds. 5 seconds over. Dude's laying there looking at you and says, fuck you. Now what? You tase him again. Okay, fuck you. There's a point where you got to go hands-on and handcuff him. The taser doesn't put his arms behind his back and cuffs appear. Like, you go hands-on every single time you decide to take someone to jail. Or you decide to take someone to a hospital to get mental health treatment. Like, you are going hands-on 90% of the time, 99% of the time. Hey, turn around. Okay, boom, you put handcuffs on. The one time, you're still going hands-on. The one time you turn around, you go to put handcuffs on, they turn around on you and say, no, you taking me to jail? Now what?
Yeah, you're gonna have to
do it. On the lighter things, I hear you're a musician.
No, not a musician. Not
heard you made a song and made a music video. That counts you as a musician, my guy.
No, not a musician. So I love being able to like do this job because it does allow me some like freedom creatively. It's not something I've ever really had. Like in martial arts, yeah, you get to be creative and stuff, right? But like you don't get to really make art besides like physical art. So I always loved being able to like branch off and do stuff that I've never done before. So I know a guy and he did a song called Steven Seagal. And when I first started McDojo Life, I would share that shit all the time. It is so good. It's such a well put together song. And it's catchy. And his name's Uziman, Uzi M-O-N. And it's like a reggae character. And the dude looks like a regular white dude, right? But he actually like, grew up in the Bahamas. And so he actually naturally has the accent. And so like he kind of goes back and forth between not having the accent and having the accent. So when he does like his reggae stuff, his accent's real smooth. And so I was listening to it and I like reggae and I was like, man, I really want to make a song. So I just like reached out to him one day. I was like, hey man, I share your stuff all the time. I was like, would you want to make a song? And he was like, yeah, let's look into it. So he put down the beat and then he gave me like a lyric sheet, or we did like 2 hours worth of back and forth of like what the song should feel like and what is it like, because he's writing all of it, like what I was looking for, and like I gave him like all these like tropes of like frauds in the industry, and he comes back pretty quick. He comes back like 2 months later, and he's like, "Here's the track," and I was like, "Oh, the track is great, man." He's like, "Yeah, like here's the lyric sheet. What do you think?" And so he gave me like a walkthrough talk of it, and I was like, "Let's change this around a little bit. I kind of like this. Let's change that." And then like maybe within a year, like of us just kind of going back and forth, playing around with it in our spare time, it was done. And then I was like, let's make a music video. So we made a music video because of like some production people that I knew. And so we put together a music video. Song is a banger. Music video turned out great. Like I put it at the end of like all my McDojo Life videos on YouTube. It's like the outro.
Oh, dude, can I use it for the outro of this episode?
Oh yeah, by all means, please do.
I had a couple artists on here, and that's what I'll do. I'm like, hey, we'll throw your song on the end as long as you don't flag me on YouTube. And I'm like, let's do it. No, we got to do this.
Yeah, and I love trying to make more. Like ultimately, by the time, like I want to think maybe by the end of next year, I'd love to have enough songs made through different artists that I can actually put an album out, just the album of the songs that we've done. We have another one, a guy who does like almost like an AI type thing. It's like a mixture of like AI and his real voice, and it just changes his voice. But we're doing a song for Christmas, and we had it ready to go, but he got picked up for a bunch of other stuff. And so he wanted to like clean it up. And it's basically like, instead of, it's a song about Santa Claus, but rather than giving out coal for Christmas, he's giving out oil checks. So like any bad kids are going to get oil checked instead of like coal. And the song is a banger. I might even have it right here. Like, yeah, get you like
have it. It's queued up, ready to go.
Oh man, I don't. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Oh man, it was so good. I made another song we just haven't done anything with yet, and it was about a ninja who believes he's a ninja. He wholeheartedly believes that he is a ninja, but he's a mental patient who's escaped. And so like he's like doing ninja stuff everywhere in a ninja costume, and in his mind he is like legitimately a ninja, but he's just a crazy person. So we already made that one too. I just haven't done anything with it
So
yet.
you're the Weird Al of the MMA world.
Oh no, man! It's just fun to like mess around with it. It's
Hey, well, we have a full blown studio here. I actually know my manifesto. He does dark wave. So if you're ever in the Pittsburgh area, bro, we'll set you up with a different genre studio.
oh, I think this is it. Let me see if this is it.
Santa's on the mats with a gleam in his eye. No need for coal, he's got a surprise. Shit, you don't get gifts when you got no respect. Now Santa's here giving oil checks, flying down from the North Pole.
Are these released? Like a Spotify?
No, McDojo Life is on all the music platforms.
Okay.
But, this one isn't released yet, so like that's honestly the first time anyone has heard it other than me.
Oh, dude, on the Relentless Project, look at that! Look at that! I'm gonna put like little cue dance mode, and we're just gonna.
It's so good, and like the way that he put it together is pretty genius. And he did one that went really viral. It was talking about like he glued his balls to his butthole, and that was like a really big song for a while. But yeah,
Dude, I like funny music like that. Like it's lighthearted and like, isn't that what music's supposed to be? Tell a story.
It's just fun. Like I don't like for me, like I talk all the time. Like obviously, oil checking someone is sexual assault, right? So that's ridiculous. Don't put your finger in someone's butthole unwarranted, right? But
unwarranted.
But it's also like kind of fucking hilarious in a way. Like an oil, like so I like talk a lot about like when I see an oil check, I always go hashtag Team Oil Check. Like I did a shirt collaboration with Super Rare Fight Shop. They have locations in New York and LA. And so they did a McDojo Life t-shirt, which actually turned out really cool. I love the thing that they did with that. But then we did another t-shirt, and it was an oil check t-shirt. And it's like got somebody on the front. It looks like they're like working on a car, like an engine, but it's like an oil check, So
Jiu-Jitsu's big for that kind of. You ever heard of the keep Jiu-Jitsu gay? Obviously, I'm sure you
yes.
Like, dude, I came into a tournament, dude came in wearing that, and I was like, he's gonna fuck somebody up. Like and he did. He was kissing dude on the forehead the entire competition. Dude's like on the ground, like, dude, can you stop?
Like you're already beating me. Like
yeah, like let's keep it classy. But so music, you also you kind of talked about it, but you have a book. You have a book that you're working on.
So I think it's here. Yeah. So I wrote a book called Sensei's Bars and Scars. So I started. I kind of talked about this a little earlier in the show, but like I did a fight night that was called Patron Boxing, and it was like Friday night fights, and then it turned into Super Slam Sundays. But the Patron Boxing was literally taking people from the audience, and anyone who wanted to fight that night just sign up in the back and get in there. Like it would let anybody fight. It was so fun. It was so fun. We had 1-on-1 fights, 2-on-2 fights, 1-on-3 fights, 1-on-2 fights. We had something called Thunderdome rules, which was like one round, and it didn't stop until someone quit or got knocked out. It was like a really rowdy.
I heard of like there's a bar I believe in Thailand that you get a free beer if you fight.
Yeah, like there's a lot of that overseas.
I'd be drunk. I'd be drunk because I'd be fighting.
Here,
like,
not so much over there, yeah. But now patron boxing really isn't a thing anymore. But this book is about my teenage years, basically starting martial arts all the way up until my instructor died. And it talks a lot about like stories, and I tried to make sure that there are photos that back every story. So there's a photo of my instructor who set himself on fire. He's on fire in the photo. Pictures of me teaching, pictures of me in like high school, pictures of me like in like fights at the nightclub. Like there's pictures that go along with every story. I talk about the time I got stabbed. I talk about my instructor getting set on fire, the 2-on-2 fight that I did. The very first fight that I did, I was 15, and the guy I fought was like 35 because we just happened to be the same weight class.
All the stories that we missed, huh?
It opens with the story opens with me getting jumped. We talked about that. So in great detail, I talk about how that got me into martial arts. And then it kind of gets all the way to the time that basically the fight nights got shut down. And then it skips to the last conversation I ever had with my instructor. He had died of cancer. So that was like the last
Sorry to
talk
hear
we
that.
ever had. So we talk about that, and then kind of how I started McDojo Life. So it's pretty like all the way up until the end. It's like very in a row, and then it just kind of jumps to around the time that I started McDojo Life.
So it's almost it's a book about you and your experiences.
Yeah, just as my teenage years. Like I thought about writing another one, like a memoir of like all the stuff I've had to go through with McDojo Life, because I've had some crazy shit happen because of McDojo Life, and man, I got to see some incredible stuff. Like I've had some scary shit happen, so I'm really thinking about doing like a memoir style of things that have happened with McDojo Life. I have like 3 Joe Rogan stories that are fucking amazing. Like, and he's not even in them. It's just because of him that these things happen. I got to get high with Ron White one time on his couch, which was very cool. I got to see Izzy Adesanya versus Kevin Gastelum, which was like the fight of the year. I got to see that live in Atlanta. I was like in the 3rd row next to Killer Mike, the rapper, because like of Joe Rogan. Yeah, it was like it really cool shit has happened.
When you getting on Joe Rogan?
Shit, that's not up to me, brother. That's up to Rogan.
No, fuck. But hey, I get called to Joe Rogan in Pittsburgh, so if that means anything, put him on. Put him on. All right, there goes. Hopefully that works. But
yeah, I don't.
No, dude, that's dope. That's so dope, and it's
I will
cool.
say this about the Rogan thing. It's like I am so grateful, like for really the opportunity I've been given because of him. Because like in my mind anyway, and I could be completely wrong, but I was already building McDojo Life, and I was going to continue to build McDojo Life no matter what. That wasn't like contingent on whether or not he talked about it. But the fact that he even gave a fuck to care about it at all, to talk about it, basically made it so that way years of work I would have had to accomplish to get the following that I have now got cut down in such a short period of time. And it allowed me now to do this full time. It allowed me to do stories about people who probably wouldn't have had stories done about them because I wouldn't have had the resources to do them. It's allowed me to be able to help people through social media and consulting work. Like it's allowed me a platform. And really all he did was just talk about liking what I did. And because of that, I am grateful for what he's done. And people are either here or there about Joe Rogan. And in all honesty, we've never really had like a full-blown back and forth conversation. But he has always been polite, and he's always been really cool as fuck in terms of like, hey man, I'm gonna be in your area. Like I really want to get tickets to this thing, but it's sold out. How do I get tickets? And he'll just take care of it. I'm grateful for that. That's very fucking cool. And for anybody out there who might not like Joe Rogan for one reason or another, I can tell you this, man, because of what he's done, it's allowed me to call out more rapists and more pedophiles. And so at the very least, you have to be at least thinking like he helped do that.
We live in such a polarizing world, and I try to convey this message in a lot of the shows I do. And it's like, you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying. You don't have to like the guest I have on. But like, if you listen to everybody's story and what, like, you can pull stuff from that. And just because you don't agree with a lot of the things someone's saying, you can just agree to disagree. This era we're in of like, I don't like what he said about this. Fuck him. I hope he dies. It's like, come on. Like,
well, that's the cult mentality we talked about earlier. That's very much a cult mentality. That separation of middle ground is kind of how cults take advantage of people.
Like, yeah, so let's keep you here. Yeah. They're over there. They're like, let's not even interact, because if you do interact with them, you're gonna realize like we're all people. We're all living life for the first time, trying to do what we believe is right, and that doesn't coincide with a lot of people. And we're on a journey. And if you talk to a lot of people, most people are cool people. If you just give them the time of day to talk, you don't have to agree.
Yeah.
But like, now I fancy Joe Rogan. I think dude's dope. I think what he's done for the MMA community, for the podcasting community, like, even stories like this, I talked about your shit. And that's giving you a platform.
Like, it's such a strange like thing. Like I've always wanted to be in the martial arts industry, but like burnout is a real thing. And I feel like every couple years I need to find new reasons to be in this. And why am I doing this? And McDojo Life, over the last 13 years, probably I wasn't able to do this full time until like maybe 5-6 years ago. And then it became like a full-time job. But up to that point, I was just doing it because I liked it. And then, once I was able to do it full time, well, now what I do changes. It's like, not only am I doing this, but I also have to pay my bills with this. So like the way you view it changes. And I'm sure in another 5 years, I'll have a different viewpoint. And hopefully I make it that long without getting fucking shot or stabbed by somebody I did a story about.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. I'll tell you what, if you're in Pittsburgh, you're in good hands, brother. We got you down here. Talking about network and all that stuff, you're also working on sort of like a documentary.
Yeah,
And
we've been working on that for 5 years now.
Oh, so it's been a project for a while, and that's connected you with Jocko being the producer.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and I was just having this conversation the other day. I was like, dude, like, you know who I'm having on the podcast? Like, who? I'm like, dude, Rob and McDojo Life. They're like, oh, how the fuck did that happen? I was like, just I don't know. I actually, and I remember seeing him at CJ. I wanted to talk to him about everything he's doing. Didn't get the chance to. You know, Jocko was also there. Didn't get to talk to him, obviously. But then I got with Eric and Kate with Seminar Stack. Then you became one. I'm like, dude, it's just like you surround yourself with good people and good things happen. And now look, you're on the show. We're talking, and it's similar to like what's happening with you. You're doing something good. You get connected with people. Now you're working on a freaking documentary. What is that about?
Well, I've never done anything with McDojo Life that wasn't asked of me by the audience. Like, so for the first, I think 4 years of McDojo Life, I believe I didn't put my face on McDojo Life because I didn't want the backlash. I didn't want the death threats. I didn't want to have to defend myself and randomly worry about getting shot for doing a story about a crazy person. But then it kind of became a thing where people like really wanted to know who was running it to give it legitimacy. Like, who are you to like judge these people? I'm like, I'm not judging them. I'm just telling people what's going on. So like, I'm not judging shit. Like these, in my opinion, some of these people are crazy, but you can have your own opinions. Like, that's, so like, if you ever look at any post on Instagram, it's like one sentence and 9 times out of 10, it's a question. It's not even like my opinion. People are like, how dare you post that? How dare I ask a question? Like, I'm allowed to ask questions, motherfucker. If you view differently, this is the conversation time to have that. But
for sure.
But yeah, I never did anything that the audience didn't ask me to do. So I didn't ever make a t-shirt until somebody said like, why don't you make a t-shirt? And then I was like, well, I don't like the logo that I had at the time. So I got this logo, which actually took a lot of time, effort, and energy to make that logo because it means something to me. And then after that, they made t-shirts. And then people were like, all right, well, this would make a good show. And I was like, well, fuck, man, that sounds like work. So then I was like, all right, well, I guess I need to figure out how to do this and like make a YouTube. So I made a YouTube and kind of made these like episodic like breakdowns and started talking about news, and then it evolved from there. But then somebody was like, you should kind of do like an actual TV show about this. And I was like, well, I don't know how that would go. And you look into the legalities of how all this works and it gets very slippery and very tricky. But I was like, fuck it, let's try. So I got with some homies over at Vodo Studios. They did a show on YouTube called Mexican Martial Arts. And it's like a funny parody Masterkin type thing, but from like a Cholo perspective.
Oh, I've seen a couple videos.
And so I was like, their video production is really good. I mean, it was real high quality stuff. So if you ever look up Mexican martial arts, like his older stuff when he was in Fresno with that group, I mean, it's beautiful cinematography for like a YouTube video. And I was like, fuck it, like these guys seem like they have their stuff. So I originally asked Master Ken because I know Matt, the guy who plays Master Ken. I've known him for a while and I had done some videos with him, and I knew his story about like going to go actually to film school, and like he knows what he's doing. He's legit, like in terms of film. He's been in like a ton of films too. I even saw him in Sicario. Like he's in a little blip in Sicario. I was like, that's Master Ken. That's dope. So like he's legit. So I asked him, and he was working on his own movie at the time, so it didn't work out. But the guys at Vodo Studios did. We raised $20,000. We were looking for 200, but we got like couple like road bumps. One, some douchebag on YouTube decided to take a bunch of my clips, call it a martial arts documentary about frauds, and it's not. It's just a mashup with a voiceover, and it's terrible. But I didn't get after that guy because even though my logo was in everything, I was like, look, he is technically spreading the word of what I want to spread. I do want people to be made more aware of these cults. And that thing had like 8 million views or something like that. But like a lot of people were like, why would I pay you like $1 to like make your documentary when I can watch this documentary for free? And I'm like, that's not a documentary. Like, but people got confused. So a lot of people didn't donate. And another guy had made a documentary, was making a documentary about red belts in Jiu Jitsu. And a lot of people had given him money for his crowdfunding. Well, he just disappeared and never made the film. So it jaded a lot of people. And so that was another roadblock. But we raised 20. We wind up setting up filming. I think it was like 6 months later, because you could do Indiegogo for 90 days. So that's 3 months. So from concept, I think it took us 3 months to decide when we were going to launch on Indiegogo. 3 months into the concept, we launch, and then another 3 months later, so we're 6 months in, a half a year. Now we're at $20,000. Then we were like, all right, 3 months from now, we're going to go ahead and shoot our film. So these are our production dates. So 3 months rolls by. It was like a couple weeks before that COVID hit. And so we were like, fuck, like if anybody remembers this little thing called COVID, like everybody was on lockdown. Everybody had to wear masks. People weren't leaving their house. And that happened for 2 years. So like here we are 9 months in, and we're like, all right, let's go. And then 2 years after that, we're able to start actually trying to film. And like, so now people are like, well, what happened to your documentary? I'm like, you're fucking idiots. Like, if you're
what happened.
Like,
you know what happened.
What are you talking about? You donated a goddamn $1. Like, I'm out here shoveling out thousands to make this still happen after that money was gone. So like, come on, like, give us a little slack. Like, well, this isn't something that we wanted to happen. More shit would have been done already. So like 9 months and 2 years in, we finally were able to film. So we wind up filming 30 days worth of content, which says a lot about that production studio. Because if you know anything about making film, $20,000 is like a day. You burn through that like that. And so I put out another 20 of my own money. I gave the rest of what was crowdfunded directly to the production studio. But what we had wasn't enough for a film. Plus, a lot of it was during COVID. So like a lot of the interviews were Zoom, and it was like really difficult to make. So we wound up getting a guy named Adam. Help me out here, Adam. Adam Wood. Sorry. Adam,
telepathic.
He's our director. And he's an Emmy Award-winning director. And then we got a sound guy to come on board. His name is Crime Sonic on Instagram. But he's got like 14 Emmys for sound. And he was just like, yeah, I just want to help. I was like, I'm bored. I like what you do. Like, my studio does its own thing, and I can work on projects I want. And he's like, you can rent our film equipment and stuff, whatever you need. We're like, all right, dope. So now we have like 2 Emmy Award-winning people on our team. So we wind up making what's called a sizzle reel. And the sizzle reel is like just kind of a trailer for a movie that's not made yet, like a concept. Like, this is what it could be. So we took a bunch of footage that we had already filmed and a bunch of concepts. We put it together, and finally we're able to make a good sizzle. We start pitching that out. We wind up getting a conversation with Amazon, conversation with Hulu. Hulu passed. Amazon is actually still talking with us, which is cool. And then we wind up getting Jocko Willink as an executive producer. I had seen him at ADCC, walked up, talked to him. I said thank you because he had discussed a story that I had covered about a child being killed. He discussed that on his podcast and gave me credit for that, and I appreciated that. So, and I was like, yeah, I'm working on a documentary. He was like, mid-conversation, he's like, yeah, I really want to hear more about that. Like, I'd love to be involved. He gets pulled from like handlers, and they're like, hey, it's about to start. And he's like, oh, well, here's our information. Get back with us. And he dipped. I was like, motherfucker. Like, that's a terrible
I was there.
I was right there. So I called him. I called, and we actually got it set up through his contacts. And we had a 2-hour conversation at Victory, the gym that he's out of. And we had like this great conversation. He was like, I'm in. So he became an executive producer. We got a silent partner on board as well. So now out of like our big budget, we're about 25% there. And so now we're trying to get it over the finish line. And getting over the finish line, if anybody like just doesn't understand how this works, you can't really make a good movie without money. That's just what happens. You can make a movie, you might get lucky and make an okay movie, right? But you're not going to make a good one. And I feel obligated to make something good because I feel like what's going to happen with this film is educate the public. And I'm not going to do that half-assed. I don't give a fuck how long it takes. I don't care how many no's I have to hear. I'm not going to put out a bad product. I refuse to do that. And so you get people who are like, how come it's not done yet? It's not scripted. Like, we had to, it wasn't until like 3 years in that we were even past COVID and crowdfunding. And then after that, it's been a matter of trying to raise the rest of the funds, which we've raised quite a substantial bit. But in Hollywood, it's not like, hey, let's make a phone call. Sure, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then like after that, it's like, oh, we said yes. Like, a phone call means I'll talk to you in 4 weeks if you're lucky. And then after that phone call, there's going to be another phone call like 2 or 3 months when their schedule opens up again. And then after that, if you're lucky, there's another phone call that leads to nothing. But after that phone call, maybe there's another phone call. And that's kind of how it goes. And you expect it to be a lot more structured, but it's not. And Hollywood right now is in like this downward hemorrhage, and they're just getting brutalized by streaming services. So they're getting brutalized by like YouTube. They're getting brutalized by Instagram because the new generation is not sitting down and watching full-on movies and shows. They're sucking up content. YouTubers now are their star. And so on one hand, I love that because it helps my job out. But on the other hand, it's like, motherfucker, I'm trying to make a good movie. And so when you're trying to get all this done, it's not as easy as it seems, or everyone would do it. So now we're at a stage where we have 2 irons in the fire of possibly getting it 100% funded. Oh, one more thing that people might not know. You might get fucked over in this industry. Like, it is real. Like, that is a real thing. There are sharks that cannot wait to eat you alive. And it almost happened to us. A company came to us, found out through a friend about our project, and was like, we'll fund it 100%. And we were like, wow, like that was like $780 something thousand. They're just like, we'll give it to you. But obviously there's always a caveat, right? So they were like, we want full business control and we want full creative control. We want to fire your director. Your whole team is going to be on the sidelines, and we don't even know if you're going to be in it. And I was like, well, that fucking blows. Like, that
you like the idea.
Yeah, like they were like, we just want to take it. And so we were like, well, let's negotiate. Negotiations, by the way, happened for a year. That's how like serious this was. And so they're like, and at one point at the end, after they tried to fire my entire team, basically sideline them all, we were like, all right, look, we just want to, like, they were like, how about this? We will give you like a red line sheet, a sheet of all the things that we want to do with your film. And we can't deviate from that, but we need you to talk to us about what we can and can't do. And if you sign off on that, then you should be more comfortable in moving forward with us. And we were like, that's actually kind of fair. Like, you can't deviate from changing what's on the sheet. You're going to tell us what you're going to change, and we get to make a decision beforehand if you're going to do that. Okay, let's see the sheet. We redlined everything we had a question about. They wanted to make it a political film. We didn't want to make it a political film at all. They wanted to make it a film about absentee fatherism. We were like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, so we had questions, and they were like, y'all are just being difficult. We're like, it's not difficult for us to ask questions, especially with a project that's ours and not yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different trains of thought coming together.
It has nothing to do with what we're doing. So then they tried to bribe me. They were like, yo, we're going to give you $80,000 signing bonus on top of what I was already going to get paid for making the film, on top of what I was going to get paid for its selling. So like, if I would have sold this film with them, I probably would have had about $300,000 payday. And so, but they would have fired my team. And I was like, fuck no, fuck you. Like, money means nothing to me. Like, I do most of my job for free. Like, every time I do a story about a rapist, you think YouTube is like, here, let's give you some advertisement money. No, most of that's demonetized or restricted. Like, most of this I do because I do it for the love of the game, or I do it off of sponsorships or whatever I get paid, luckily, in some ad revenue. Like, I don't get paid a ton of money to do this job. So, one, I can see how they might think dangling that carrot in front of my face would be tempting, because I could have used the money.
For most people, it would be, unfortunately.
And I was in the middle of a lawsuit, like, at that time. So that I'm having to pay out a lawyer to defend myself about that guy who hired the registered sex offender. So, like, walls are very tight. Like, money's tight. But fuck you very much for thinking that you can bribe me for my integrity to fire my team. But that's what it had to be left at. But people don't get to see that part. Like, people don't get to see these back and forths. And because of that, I think people just assume that you're not working on it. And it's like, look, I'm not going to tell you my everyday struggles. I'm not going to give you like a daily, hey, today sucked. Hey, today also sucked. Hey, by the way, today sucked. We heard another no, because most people can't handle that. Most people cannot handle the stress of hearing no over and over and over again. But that's what separates you from the rest of the pack, is the rest of the pack said, you said no, okay, we're done. And then they just fuck off. Like, the people who succeed heard no 1,000,000 times before they heard a yes. The light bulb, how many times did it take for him to figure that shit out? He didn't figure it out the first time. Like, how many times did it take the Power Rangers guy to make his money? I think he had his shit maybe in 7 years it took him for hunting, or maybe it could have been 10. How about the guy who did Squid Games? I know for a fact, I think it was at least like 8 years.
It got canceled so many times. Production was canceled, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so like, you just have to make a decision that you're going to do this. And yes, you're going to hear stupid people say stupid things because they have no clue how this business works. And even trying to like tell them how it works, they still don't get it. So like, I'm like, I'll tell people the victories. I'm like, hey, Jocko's an executive producer. All right, cool. Why isn't it done yet? What are you talking about? Like, we just got an executive. Like, do you think I'm dumbfounded. Like, do you think I just get a bicycle and a phone and just like roll up to people's studios and fight them? Because that's not how this is ever going to work ever. Like, that's not how this works. Like, there's like 3 fucking sound dudes, and like the dude holding the boom mic. There's a guy checking the audio levels. There's a guy checking like somebody's making sure the equipment's doing what it's supposed to be doing. There's like a director. There's 3 camera dudes. Like, every one of them is on payroll all the time. And
well,
so
not only that, on top of the shit you're currently doing, and I had a director who has a movie on Prime, Don Porcari. So I love movies, so I kind of like tried to get the behind the scenes of like what it takes, and he does like small films that he is in complete control of himself. And he was like, dude, once you reach a level, mention the level you're at. I forget what dollar amount he used, but once you pass that dollar amount, there's so much red tape that you have to adhere to because of the rules of the industry.
Yeah, and you have to remember, you're not playing with your money. You're playing with other people's money. And when
Yeah.
somebody else gives you money, they want, not only do they want a return on investment, but they want to decide if whatever you're putting out is the same values and quality that they expect. So like, you don't just get to go, okay, well, I have $200,000, go. The budget said 700 for a reason. Like, the budget's there to make sure that the quality of the film is good. And when we're dealing with something that's never been done, I'll give you a quote at least to close on in terms of like what's going on with the film. And it was like a quote I heard very early in working on the film. Like, if you're making a film, the director is God. So if you're just making a regular scripted movie, the director is God. But if you're making a documentary, God is the director. And what they mean by that is, when you have a scripted film, the director just looks at the script and he makes it happen. And now I'm paraphrasing and making it sound simpler than that, but that's basically what the director does. He just makes sure the film gets done, make sure it's got his vision and direction, right? But in a documentary, you might go, I'm going to make a documentary about squirrels. And you start filming this happy little squirrel, and you're like, I'm just going to do a voiceover and give people National Geographic type film, and they're going to love it, 30 minutes. But then in the distance of your camera, you see a murder. You're like, all right, well, this isn't about squirrels anymore. You follow that story. That's now your story. And so that's how documentaries work. So you like, I have an idea of what this is going to be. But then as you start filming and you start peeling back layers, you're like, that is not what this is about. Like, and I have to deal with that even with YouTube.
Well, dude, I hope when I hate to ask this question, but when it's the goal, the anticipated launch
I can
date.
actually give you some official dates. So I had a heart-to-heart with my team. And I was like, look, what we have now, let's just work with what we have, and we'll try to raise the rest as we go. So our Come to Jesus budget meeting is on May 12th. That's our like meeting. We're going to sit down and we're going to figure out how to work with the money we have. And then our production should start June 23rd. Now, granted, we've already filmed some stuff, so some stuff is salvageable and stuff like that. But we luckily have some access to some equipment now, which is usually astronomical to rent. So we might actually be in a pretty good spot by that time. So, and then Jocko was so fucking cool. If anybody does not understand how fucking cool Jocko is, like, yeah, he has that look about him, like he's just a tough dude, and he is a tough dude, right? And we've done some technique stuff before, and he's strong as shit, and he's very good. But he's a funny dude. He's like real casual. Like, he's not super serious all the time. Like, he has expectations for sure, but like, he's cool as shit. And so for the fact that dude looked me in the eye and shook my hand and gave me his word about being a part of this project, and he has not wavered. He's not blinked an eye. Like, that says a lot about someone's character. And he sees that we're trying, and he sees that we're working hard. So the fact that he was on board, and he was like, whenever this is done, we'd be happy to have you on the podcast. I mean, of course, it's smart for him because he wants more people to see the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Return on investment. But he also said he'd do voiceover work, and his voice is very powerful in our industry. It's very recognizable. Exactly. So, we're grateful to have the support. And I think that, you said something earlier that really applies here is like, when you're around people who were cool and stuff like that, like the gym that you were talking about, it's night and day difference between working for people who are more opposing you than people who actually want to help you. And you'd be amazed how many people you never thought would ever answer your phone call, ever answer your email, ever answer your DM, that will. Like, they just will. Like,
perfect example.
Man, I gave myself 2 rules with McDojo Life, and I've stuck to those rules, and I swear I'll always stick to these rules. I will do every show I'm ever asked to do. I don't give a shit who it is. I don't care whose show it is. I don't care how many followers they have, subscribers. I don't even look at that shit. Don't fucking care. Somebody says, would you be on
Good.
my show? The answer is always yes, right? And then the second is I'll answer every direct message I ever get. Now, that takes a long time. And, like, that's more of an impossible task as time goes on. But I will. Like, if you just give me, like, I've answered people like 2 years later, and they were like, yeah, I sent that like 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, but I wanted to
I'm
answer
here
it.
now.
I just
I'm
got
here
to
now.
it, you know? Like,
No, well, I do appreciate that. Because this is one of the messages where I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. If it lands, great. If it doesn't, yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. And I'll catch him at the seminar stack. And
I'm
dude,
just
you answered immediately. I was like,
yeah, it's
bet, let's
handy.
get this
Like if you're
going.
like when I'm answering direct messages, people are like, how did you answer me so fast? So like if I'm answering direct messages, it pops up at the top of my screen. So I'm like, all right, well that's who I'm talking to now. And I work my way back down. Message pops up. That's who I'm talking to now. Work my way down.
That doesn't mean blow his inbox up. That does not mean
Well, I
that.
mean, I will say this, like if someone has sent me a message and you're like, well, he never answers me, just send me another one. Like it'll go to the top. Like Instagram doesn't have a filter like Google does. Google has a filter to where you can look at the latest, like the earliest message you get. You could flip the script, so not the newest, but the farthest away. Instagram doesn't do that. Like Instagram is always the newest message you get, so every message gets shoved down. If Instagram would just add that filter, I would do it the opposite way. I'd start at the end and work my way up, and then that way I can guarantee people aren't having to wait as long.
No, that's cool. And along with this movie, as if you're not doing enough things, or is that the right way? I speak 2 languages.
Yes,
You're also looking into opening like a martial arts complex.
yeah, like it's some of the stuff is already done, right? So like I already wrote the book, like the music video was fun, like the music stuff is fun, but like the documentary is a long drawn out process that is just a brutal grind. So like you don't just like it's not like I'm working on it every day. Like it just doesn't work that way. It's like I'm waiting most of the time for someone to give me an answer. But with like the HQ, like it's tricky working from your house. I don't think people really understand like it can be very tricky. Like fucking mailman shows up and my dog barks for like 3 hours later. Like I can't record then and it's very hard to think. But if I was going to get a facility, I didn't want it to just bleed me dry financially. Like you're going to have to pay on that facility. So what am I going to do with it? So I started sitting there thinking about like what were the holes in our industry, because that's kind of how every project has worked with McDojo Life. Academy Safe, what are the holes in that? And like, what's the hole? Well, people aren't doing the things they should be doing, even though it's not required. So I thought about like tournaments, and tournaments usually rent out high school gymnasiums. Like it's usually very uncomfortable, like hard wooden benches. It's hurry up and wait. The building itself is usually like real cold or sterile. It's just like a big open empty space. Some tables got set up with some mats, and then it's a bunch of bodies. Maybe there's like a third party gear company or something, like a guy selling hot dogs somewhere, but like it's that facility isn't made for that. Like it's being rented out. And then what happens is those tournaments try to rent it out again for the next year, and then they get denied. They're like, oh, well, we already rented out that space. So I was like, well, that's kind of bullshit. Like that sucks, because if you're a tournament promoter, you want to have your stuff ready to go. So I was like, well, why don't I get a facility? And I want to do a headquarters, but I want to run it like an event center. I don't want to run it like a martial arts studio. I want to run it like if you were having bands show up to your gym, or you have bands showing up to your event center. A band shows up, they play their set, people pay tickets to watch the band. What am I selling? I'm selling the same shit. Someone shows up to teach a seminar, people are showing up paying money. Everything else besides that is where you make your money. So yeah, you might make some money off a seminar, but are you really making money off the seminar? Because like, did you sell their merchandise? Did you give them an opportunity to have private lessons? Like, did you fly them in early enough to film content, do a podcast with them? So there's a lot that can go into doing that. And not only seminars, but 8-man bracket tournaments. Who's paying people for tournaments? Most places are not paying you unless you're upper echelon. Why not? If you're a white belt and you want to do an 8-man bracket tournament with me, you pay $100 entry fee, just like all the 8 other people who are competing against you in that weight class. And whoever wins as a white belt, I'll give you $200. So you get your entry fee back and $100. As a white belt, you're not going to get that deal almost anywhere else. And then blue belts, I'll give you $250. Purple belts, I'll give you $300. Brown belts, I'll give you $350. Black belts, I'll give you $400. So in one night, you show up and whatever your division is, I can do white, blue, purple, brown, black. So I can do 5 tournaments that are last an hour apiece, submission only. I can do that on a Monday. This week, it's lightweight. Next week on Monday, it's middle. Next week on Monday, it's heavy. The last week of the month is going to be females, right? And I just keep rotating these things. And it allows me like a CBGB type spot where instead of trying to discover bands, we're trying to discover people who are about that life. Like, here's your 8-man bracket tournament. Are you about it? Pay your $100 entry fee. Get your ass out there. It's submission only. That's it. Like, you get your time. Have at it. If you can't sub them, like, we'll have some overtime rules. I really like EBI. Their overtime rules are fantastic. I love how that's set up. But ultimately, you could do that with Jiu Jitsu, Karate, Taekwondo, Judo, Sumo. You can do that with every martial art. And you just keep rotating that out every night. Also, at the end of the night, what do people do when they're spectating? Any fight night. You make more money off of food and alcohol than you do anything else during a fight night. So having something built in, like a coffee shop that does concessions, as well as a bar, allows people to be able to enjoy fight nights, but it's all built in. Having screens above the mats in the open space. That's mat 1, that's mat 2, that's mat 3, that's mat 4. And people can just look up instead of having to look through a crowd. It's built that way. Having a smooth comp TV, a TV that just has smooth comp loaded on it. And what happens is people want to know what ring they go to, just go to the smooth comp TV. Like having a red corner, blue corner already built in. So there's a lot that's inside this facility. And it's fucking cool, just to be honest. Like, I can even show you the layout. And right now we were talking to Fuji. Fuji unfortunately passed. But it's understandable with the tariff thing that's been going on. So now we're looking at different people to help. But that's what it looks like. So right here is the bar. Right here is enough space to host 8 rings for any martial arts tournament. It's huge. This is a huge open space too, so the rings can extend. Right here is a pro shop. Right here is a coffee shop. Right here is a podcast room. Right? Then over here, red corner, blue corner rooms, medical rooms right there, and then another medical room here. That's storage. And then an outside coffee shop. So ultimately, it's built almost for us already. All we have to do is just get the layout and just kind of spruce it up a little bit. But it's a perfect spot. And 2 auxiliary parking spaces. So, like, that's perfect. There's even auxiliary parking across the street. I just have to talk to them about that. So I'm trying really hard to make that a thing to where Monday through Thursday, 8-man bracket tournaments every night. In the morning times, I could do McDojo Life content or host like classes if someone wants to rent out the space to teach and start their own program. They can start there for cheap, private lessons, things like that. And then on Friday nights, do Friday night fights for third-party fight companies, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, all smokers, all amateurs. And then Saturday, do tournaments in the morning time. And then Sunday, do martial arts seminar with someone. And I could do a different seminar with a different person every day of the week or every Sunday. Well,
that's an interesting concept. That's an interesting concept. And what it does is it kind of provides a spot for the martial arts community to go and train and practice and push their skill level, as they do these other competitions. You're not taking away from anything. You're just adding a facility that kind of strengthens that.
Or just hang out. Like after like 10, like from 10 to 2, it's just a bar. Like we have a bar there. We have concessions there. If people want to roll, they can. Once you get a drink, I'm not letting you on the mat. But if you want to go up there and you just want to roll, or we could do like a UFC, Bellator. Bellator is really still a thing anymore. 1FC, like ADCC, like whatever. Like we can do watch and rolls or watch and trains where it's like, oh, this is like a boxing match. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, just so you guys know, we have so-and-so as a guest. He's going to be teaching boxing. And so if anybody wants to like move around and spar, you can while we watch the fights. And if you don't want to spar or you're done sparring, just hop over to the bar, sit down, grab something to eat, and watch the fights at the facility. So the idea is to make it like more about the fun of it all, like, and get away from the politics. Like, I hate gym politics. Like, oh, well, we have Boz Rutan. Like, I fucking love Boz, by the way. We have Boz Rutan coming to our gym, but we're not letting anybody from the outside come to our seminar. And it's like, well, fuck you. Like, so I can have mine, and I can be like, anybody can come. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
and then I can take that, I can live stream it from behind a paywall, and anybody in any gym around the world who pays for that subscription service can go along with the seminar at their facilities. And yeah, while you're not there, not everybody can afford to fly somewhere to go take a seminar. But if you have a big screen TV at your gym and you can all just watch along, it gives you a drill, you can all participate. Like, and then those gyms now can make a little more money because the gym itself is paid for the monthly subscription. And so I can let the gym do that. And then people can pay to do this like location seminar. They could charge their student, be like, hey, it's only $20. Come in, we can do a seminar remote with Boz Rutan or with Stephen Thompson or fucking Lyoto Machida or whoever may come in. And now I'm throwing these names out there. Obviously, we don't have the facility yet, and we're still working on that. But ultimately, those are the type of names I'd like to have in.
And like as a local coach, you can kind of participate and watch your students. And like, let's say you understand the technique that's going on, offer hands-on experience. Like, hey, this is you're doing this. He explained it this way. Like, so it's a cool, and it's also a cool little like camaraderie thing. Like, hey, let's all go to the gym, watch this seminar, and do some drills.
Yeah, or like if my ultimate goal, and I don't know how feasible it is because this is a big project. I mean, it's a big project, but I'd rather do a big project that's good and fail than not try it at all. And the project itself hopefully will bring in people locally to train together who might not necessarily train together because they're at different gyms, like for a minimal price. So like, I've been looking at pricing and how I want to do it. And really, like what I want to do is for anybody who wants to do spectate any of the nights, it's just $10 spectator fee. So like a cover charge of $10, right? But if you pay $30 monthly, you can come in and spectate any of the events I'm hosting that are not brought on by a third party. So like if you want to watch an 8-man bracket tournament, stuff like that, you're more than welcome to. So any of those events, any fight nights, smokers that I'm hosting, hey, you already paid your $30 a month. Like you can come in and watch all you want. But if you want to participate, it's $50 a month. So you got access to come in and watch or whatever. Or now you have access to just use the gym on off hours, or you have access to come in and participate in some things that might cost you a little bit more. And then ultimately the goal is to just make it cheap because I know everyone's already training. If you want to be at our facility, you probably already train, so you're already paying somebody else like $100 and something a month, if not $200 a month, to train at their facilities. But here it's more like a fun spot to go to, like an enjoyable thing where it's like, oh, you know what? I want to learn from this guy. Like I want to learn some jiu-jitsu, some wrestling, some boxing, some karate, some taekwondo, whatever the case may be. Oh, I love that. We'll hang out here. Oh, the seminar's done. What do? Just fucking hit the bar. It's already here. Like, oh, you want something to eat? It's already there. Like, and make it a thing where people are hanging out more and enjoying.
Yeah, make martial arts fun again.
Yeah, man.
No, dude, a lot of good stuff you got going on, and I do appreciate you for coming on here and like sharing all that. I'm excited for what you got going on. I'm excited for what it'll mean for the martial arts community as a whole. One question I'd like to finish with is, after this episode airs, people have listened to us talk. What's a message you want people to take after listening to this and hopefully apply?
I mean, don't cook bacon naked. If I had to give you some advice, just do not cook bacon naked. It stings, it burns. No, man, I don't really have any advice, man, or anything to close on. To be honest, like I just hope that everybody who joins martial arts just has a good time. Like it should be fun. People always forget that, they're all about, oh man, this is effective. This will work on the streets. Oh, that's not real. Oh, this is what the real stuff is. Who gives a shit? The only person who cares about that is you. And like, if you ever have to get into that situation and you train almost anything, you have a leg up on whoever's fighting you if they don't train at all. So like what people forget is like, if it's not fun and enjoyable, you probably won't do it. Like no one watches episode 3, season 5 of a show that sucked ass on the pilot episode. You just stop watching that shit. Like oh, well, the season 1 was good, but season 2 got shitty. So I didn't watch season 3. That's life. Like if you go to a martial arts studio and it starts off fun and it starts to suck ass and you quit not because the art wasn't effective. You quit because it sucked. Whatever was going on in your life, it didn't match up to what you needed. So you just did something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, as martial artists, you got to remember that maybe some of this should still be fun. And if it's not, you're less likely to be good at it because you just won't do it.
No, that's something we don't hear a lot. Like if it's not enjoyable, you're not going to do it more. You have to find a way to make it enjoyable while you're learning how to fight, while you're learning how to train, while you're learning all this stuff. Make it enjoyable. Keep it enjoyable. Keep it fresh. And that facility facilitates that. See what I did there?
Oh yeah, I like alliteration.
Where could, dude? I've been out of school for a while. Where can people follow you online and kind of keep track of what you're doing? Not keep track, but kind of follow your journey with McDojo Life, the Academy Safe. Where can they get your book? Like all this stuff you talked about. Where can people learn more?
Let's see here. McDojo Life, pretty much on anything. So if you type in McDojo Life in Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be, McDojo Life will pop up. Sensei's Bars and Scars, you can actually get almost anywhere they sell books, but Amazon is probably one of the best places to get it. Lewis Martin, by the way, shout out to him. He put up with me and I put up with him while we were writing the book. So, but we got it done, and he's a very talented writer. He did Tom DeBlass's book. He did his own book. That's how I discovered him, about him being in a martial arts cult. And his book is actually fantastic too. So I'm going to shout him out real fast, man. I don't know where the damn book is right now, but that would be handy. Here it is. He did a book called The True Believers. And this is about him being in a martial arts cult, Lewis Martin. Like I said, man, very talented writer. He's a great dude. He really gives a shit about martial arts. Even though he was in a martial arts cult, he still trains. Like it's very cool to see somebody who is in the industry that actually cares that much. And again, he wrote Tom DeBlass's book, which is fantastic. So if you get a chance to pick that up too. So, but other than that, yeah, McDojo Life is where you find me. AcademySafe.org. AcademySafe.org. If you're looking to try to get your martial arts facility a little bit more legitimate in terms of what you're doing for safety of your students, definitely go to AcademySafe.org.
Well, brother, I appreciate you for jumping on. This has been quite one of the most interesting conversations I've had, just because, like me, I like to be everywhere and do everything. You're doing that shit in the martial arts world, and it's cool. It's showing. Looking forward to your seminar at Seminar Stack. I'm going to be there, so
that'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to that.
Hoping I can apply some of your principles to the podcast, to what I do for other people. So I'm excited for that.
Well, like for Seminar Stack, we had a conversation. I gave them some stuff to work on. And before that, they were under 500 followers on Facebook or on Instagram. So they were like at 480 or something like that. They're at 560 now. So like it does work. If you apply the tools and you actually treat social media a little bit more like social media and not focus on the media so much, you'd be amazed how quickly your stuff grows.
And I've noticed that when you're talking, when you show your face, and like you said, you had to like kind of show your face because people like to see what's behind. Well, who's the person running this? Why should we listen to him? Like if you become more social on the media platform, your social media takes off.
It does.
Interesting. I'm taking that to heart. I'm going to go post my face now. But I encourage you guys to follow Rob at McDojo Life. You know, everything he's doing. Obviously, hell of a dude if you can pick it up from this episode. And looking forward to everything you got.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Appreciate of course.
Love talking stuff.
Yes, we will. This is the one with Rob with McDojo Life, and we are out. Later.